L The Alchemist here. Incoming message over here. I am doing a lot of podcasts. It's going to be a part of my channel. I've always loved listening to him when it comes to, Coast to Coast or Joe Rogan. All those things are awesome. Talking about monsters, alien, conspiracies, religions, everything. This episode's with E.A. Koetting. He's a black magician who has been in the field for many years, and just getting an interview with him was fantastic, awesome. I'm going to have another one with him, but this is just all about religion, ghosts, demons, aliens, a broad thing of everything. It's fantastic. A lot of downloads. You can learn about evocation, some exorcism. There's just a little bit of everything, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to keep making them. And reach out. If you got an idea about something you want to talk about, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Walking zombies. Like, the media just laughs at us because it's like, yeah, it is The Walking Dead. And everyone's just, first off, in 20 years, your neck's going to be broken because you're walking around like this, And they're just accepting the things they're given. And honestly, it's a perfect introduction to the whole conspiracy thing. But that's the thing that's driven me even to go down the occult path in the first place, because there's so much things that weren't making sense. And then when you get those omens and the synchronicities that spirits throw at you, or your higher self, programs in you, then you're like, something weird's going on. And, I did some mushrooms, and that was like 4 years ago. But I'll tell you what, it started like everything made more sense on there's this going on. And then I started, getting into the big whole Illuminati. And then, that sent me down a path like, oh, well, then these people are using Lucifer and all this stuff, so they got to be bad, and Jehovah has to be good. And, I went so heavily into all these church groups. But the problem, helping out from teens to adult groups. And, the funny thing is, like, I kicked out of every single one of them because I would bring up spirits, aliens, bigger idea picture things. And it's like, why are we all programmed like that? And I don't know. It's really weird. It's really, really weird, and feeling kind of like a black sheep because, you're trying to build an army exactly like David Icke and all them. They expose stuff, which is wonderful. But that just makes me even more intense inside if I'm like, oh, so that's going on and that's going on. And do I have any power? Is there any power to be found?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll tell you what, a lot of those guys say no. That's the problem. Is a lot of those guys that are just strictly conspiracy theorists. They just it's like a defeatist attitude. It's like, oh well, they've got power. We can expose them, but the aliens are still terraforming our Earth, and we're still going to die of over oxygenation or whatever the theory is. And it's like, oh, dude, that's no way to live life. Like, that's and I'll tell you what, every single war that's won, in which a public has won their independence, it's always been fought by a minority. You look at the American Revolution, for instance. That was like a slim percentage. It was like less than 10% of the population said, no, we're not going to take this shit. All it takes is a highly motivated group of a few individuals to make some serious change. Most people are sheep. Most people don't want to think too much. They don't want to work too hard, and that's fine. They're easily swayed and they're easily used. Most people are pawns. And if you want to be a pawn, that's fine. Be a fucking pawn. I don't care. But there are those of us that kind of aren't just gonna take it. We're just not gonna, whatever the tyranny is coming against us. For those of us who just draw a line in the sand and say no.
And that's, I've never felt finally a more fire within, because I felt like really empty for years and years. And it was like, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I don't really want to work, this 9-to-5 job that has no use to humanity, come home, sit and stare at a black screen for 4 hours. And then, 40 years down the line, maybe I had a family. That's it. Like, that's really it. When I think that there's all this extra shit going on out there, and there's people pulling these strings. And honestly, I'm just trying to figure out more and more each day the thing that I can do, because I make music, and all my music is spiritually mind opening. Like there's, you know, talking about people, understanding yourself, get to know yourself, let go shit, you know, like they kind of chill. And then there's the aggressive kind of like hardcore, wake the fuck up, and then shooting what this guy's doing, that guy's doing, and that guy's doing. And then I'm being just wacky. So like really makes people be like, this guy looks like he's whacked out of his mind and he's over here spitting this knowledge, you know? And so they can, you know, absorb it better. But yeah, I see what you're doing. And I'm even, you know, about October, you mentioned like out in Arizona, you might be having a big thing like that. I'm like, shit, as soon as that's announced, like I'm definitely hopping aboard. Like I'm like any friend that wants to like hit another level, let's go. Like all aboard, man.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things I was saying. All right, so this would all be anyway, and we're just jumping into it. You are recording, yeah?
It did from the start.
Okay, cool.
We're good, man. I'm enjoying every second.
Sweet. Yeah, you know, there are a couple levels of this whole thing. All right, so you mentioned, you know, the mind frame earlier about the just become a living God statement, and that kind of mindset to put yourself in, and that's one level of it. That this is a really powerful mind state. Let's put the hocus pocus to the side for a second, all right? And say, okay, maybe this is all just bullshit. Maybe you and I are crazy as fuck, right? I can accept that, but this is a very useful way of seeing life. This is a very useful way of seeing yourself. Just become a living God. Become the best you can be, and take full responsibility for your happiness, your enjoyment of life. So just on that level, it's badass. If that takes doing a ritual that helps motivate you, that's fine. Now there are a lot of occultists that's where they leave it. That's as far as they go. Okay, this is a good philosophy that can help me overcome myself and pursue the things I want to pursue in life. All right, cool. But then there's this whole other level that if you stay there for long enough and you start really pushing it hard enough, you start seeing, wait a minute, like when I call these beings, shit happens. When I do these evocations, you know, things happen that I can't explain. With this thing that I'm doing in October, yeah, we're gonna have, we've had to set a pretty strong cap there. We're not allowing more than 50 people, just because that's a lot of people to try to manage.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna go wander out in the middle of nowhere and you know, open up some portals. And when I say open up portals, dude, it is nuts to when you get specifically with other people, you join together with other people, you hold hands in a circle, and you focus your energy. The stuff that happens, I mean, miracles. Where you can, there's first there's a shift in the inside yourself. All change emanates from the self. So you can feel yourself drop into that other state, and then the wind starts blowing. Almost every time I do something, the wind will pick up, and then, you know, a lot of times I'll have birds that'll show up overhead. I had these people over here. I don't know that I'm allowed to, I don't know. They didn't make me sign any non-disclosures, I don't think, but I had some books out here from what was it, the AMC channel, that they're doing a special on curses, and so they came out here and filmed some stuff here in my studio with me, and we went into my backyard here, and they had me do a ritual, and I don't do fake rituals. I've tried doing fake rituals, like to try to like, you know, move the camera and then go set up the lights in a different area and make, you know, do little effects and stuff. I've tried doing that, dude. It's not. First off, it's not fun. I'd rather just set the cameras up and then forget about them and just jump into the ritual. And so I do that, and these guys are just getting blown away. I start the ritual. I ring my bell. I drop into the state, and then right off in the distance, you hear coyotes, ow! And they're all, oh, you getting that? You getting that? And then birds are flying overhead. The wind starts blowing, and they're kind of freaking out. They're going, whoa. Like, it's like you had this stuff timed. It's like, yeah, no, you guys are movie producers, and you're blown away by the fact that this shit just happens. Like, yeah, the world just aligns. So I'm so excited for October, and we're planning that, and that's gonna be awesome. But there is when I've been doing this for most of my life, man, and I'm always blown away by how real it is, especially when you get together with other people. You have that mutual experience where it's like, this isn't just a hallucination because 50 of us fucking were sitting right here and we saw the same thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I've not had any group things. Honestly, it's been difficult because I've been with my parents for so many years because I was helping them through their different trials and everything. But now I have my own place and I'm with my brother. He's like, bro, you're cool. You get in anything you want, do what you want. This is our sanctuary. So, you know, I'm like, I have to kind of wait to be able to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll just go out in my car because at the end of the day, I make the sigil have my intent and I do my, you know, direct all my intent into that and then state my everything out loud and then have an offering. Even if I don't sense or feel anything, number one thing I remember learning, never just let things like nothing happen because something happens. And like that's and just saying nope. So I mean that's I've been able to keep the rituals going, but I'm really I mean shit, I'd be great to do a big group thing where everyone all comes together, and it's not even like to ask someone else because I was listening to another podcast you had last night. It's not about like, you know, asking someone else, hey, did you see that, having this and that. It's just about, I think, all that intent there to bring it about, to understand all that. So that's awesome. How's your path working with Abaddon going, by the way?
you know, I've actually just been finishing it up this week, the path working, and at the same time the book, and it's nuts. It's been nuts. So Abaddon, you know, as I've been tracking these gatekeepers, and mind you, I've been tracking them for years. Like ever since I met Azazel, I've been going, wait a minute, what's going on with these guys? And when I say tracking, I'm like, I'll give I'll lock onto whatever their demonic personality is, you know. So like for you know, great example is Abaddon. Huh? So he's a destroyer, right? Now you look into that name, Abaddon, and it's both a place and a person. So Abaddon is a place of destruction. It's hell. It is a term for the just destruction itself, but at the same time it's an entity, and that entity is absolute just darkness, destruction, and transfiguration. So I start looking at that and start looking through other systems. All right, so you go back to the Canaanites, and the Canaanites worshipped Mot, or they actually performed rituals against Mot. They didn't necessarily. Not a lot of people worship death. Those that do are always the outsiders. But they have this god Mot. That's the god of the underworld. But at the same time, Mot is the name of the underworld. And then we have Hades as a similar thing. Name of the entity, name of the underworld. Kali is the name of the entity, and at the same time, Kali means infinite darkness or infinite time. You've got Hela in the Vikings is the name of the entity and the name of the place. It's like, wait a minute, all these alignments. Zibalba. So this is the nutty thing. You see this over. It's in Samaria. It's in you know, the Scandinavia, Asia. And then you go all the way across to the Americas, and the same freaking myth is being told in the Americas with the same beings. So it's like, wait a minute, this isn't just like an archetype that humans created. Like I could say, all right, so if we just had an entity that was like, this is the god of death, okay, I can see that. Everybody experiences death, so everybody's going to have some sort of component of that in their religion. But when it gets so specific that like the physical characteristics, the details of the name, the powers of that entity, when they're all aligned, it's like, wait a minute, these are actual beings. These are actual beings that have contacted every civilization that we know of. But yeah, so Kali is one of the forms of Abaddon that came through most strongly through this path working. So I've gotten myself into some deep discipline. You know, I've always this has always been like a daily part of my life is you know, jumping into magic before I was ever getting paid a dime for it. And but at this point it's gotten to a whole other level where, you know, I've got these the mala beads that I'm wearing that at this point I'm almost wearing them constantly because you know, as I'm driving I'll be doing mantra meditation while I'm sitting at the coffee shop standing in line. I'll pull them out and pull them off my wrist and start counting them and doing meditation and mantras.
What do you say when you're doing all those, like in particular? Because that was actually one of my questions, and that would be
yeah. So that kind of depends. So where I've been doing this path working. All right. So when I approach path working, it is all consuming. So like when I was doing my Viking path working a couple years ago, I was I adapted my eating, my diet, my workout routine, everything was adapted to the Viking lifestyle and the Viking kind of what the mythologies recommend, basically, just to fully immerse myself in it. So with this, working with this, I've at least once a day. So the mala beaded necklace or bracelet or whatever has 108 skull beads on it, and so they're cool, little tiny beads that are in the shape of skulls. They're kind of cute. So I'll sit there and just move them down the string one at a time. And do Om Kali Ma. So it's just simple Om Kali Ma, Om Kali Ma. What's really cool is when I'm driving around, I'll turn on some music. Lately, I've been really liking like electronic music, some Goa trance and psychedelic trance. So I'll turn that on, and kind of my mantra will start to go along with the rhythm, and I'll get totally fucking immersed in it. Yeah. So yeah, so I'll do just Om Kali Ma 108 times, at least once a day, usually 3 times a day. And so just Om Kali Ma, Om Kali Ma, Om Kali Ma. Now at first it's like it's just a repetition. About a quarter of the way through, I start finding my mind starts to wander, and I start going. It's just like my mouth is making the noise, and I go, okay, that's right. I'm supposed to be meditating. I pull my mind back. Usually, by the time I'm about halfway through the mantra repetitions, my spiritual focus gets crazy sharp. All of a sudden, I'm just totally zeroed in on power. You know, we all just kind of go on autopilot through most of our day. We're just kind of like, we're just driving, or we're just walking, or we're just standing in line at the coffee store. If you can take all of those just mundane moments and focus yourself fully on your spiritual, powerful self, it's like another layer, it's like you peek your head up out of the clouds, and you're seeing things in a crisper way. You've got power. I mean, you've got power. It's actually nutty, because people who watch my videos, and especially people who troll my videos, are like, oh yeah, this dude, he thinks he's doing these rituals, and the ritual is just a catalyst, right? Like you said, you'll go sit in your car with a sigil. That's a powerful ritual. Most people are like, oh, they assume that it's the incense and the candles and all of that makes the magic. The magic's in you. But when you get to a point, you start to feel like a Jedi. I mean, I know that's
no, that's perfect, actually.
yeah. I mean, because like seriously, I don't wait at stoplights for very long. If it's red, I just close my eyes. I imagine it being green. Breathe in, hold on to that, and as I exhale, I just feel it changing. And almost every time, boom, changes. If it doesn't change every time, if it's not right on time, it is pretty close a couple seconds after. I don't deal with just the mundane little bullshit that everybody just deals with. For the most part, like, you just apply your power to it. Just see the reality that you want, and what you have to do is you have to become invested in the reality that you see, rather than the reality that's presented to you. So everybody has problems. We all have just shit that comes up in life that we have to deal with. If you can get yourself to the point that you're seeing in your mind the exact thing that you want to have happen, and your attachment shifts. So you're attached to, let's say I had a point once several years ago where I was doing cabinetry, and the company that I was working for was not doing well. I couldn't pay rent. My wife at the time called me, and she's like, hey, we got an eviction notice on the door. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I go to our paint storage room. I sit down on a paint bucket. I just start meditating, start doing the ah mantra. And so just breathing in as I release the ah sound, focusing on my third eye, and pushing the visualization of what I want to have happen out. So I'm doing that, and I'm feeling this stress. It's just like, God, I got a daughter, I got a wife, I don't know how I'm going to even make this work. Just stressing to the max, right? I do this meditation, and the internal alchemy starts to happen, where whatever those emotions are start to get transferred or transfigured into peace peace is the highest vibration. So I start to go, all that nervousness, the stress, the anxiety, the fear, that all starts to just turn slowly into peace as I keep breathing in and exhaling and seeing the reality that I want. So I get to a point that I'm like, oh, okay, I don't even feel nervous anymore. It's all gonna work out, cool. I breathe out and I go, okay, cool, thank you. And I get up and walk out, and just as I walk out, the accountant pages me on the loudspeaker, and I'm like, oh no, maybe I'm in trouble now. What the fuck's up? So I call her extension. She's like, hey, we got a check for you for some travel expenses from a while ago. We forgot to pay you out for, and it's quite a bit. So can you just come and grab this so we can get it out of our account? And I'm like, yeah. And it was exactly what I needed to pay rent and to pay my car payment, to get groceries in the fridge. It was like winning the lottery out of nowhere. And it is always in direct relation to how quickly you can get yourself to peace. If you can move your emotions to peace and visualize what you want and bring yourself to complete peace and certainty. If you can get there, you can do anything.
That's incredible. I've just recently got back into meditation. I've been doing getting to a sauna. I'm running, push myself, because that's the thing. You have to have a lot of room for energy inside of here, so you can be able to push yourself and even work with it. Doesn't matter what spirit you work with, angels, demons, it doesn't matter. Like, you need to be strong inside, otherwise it's just like crush. But that whole peace thing, I remember 2 nights ago, I just laid down with some nice little, I think it was 432 hertz, just some nice little background thing, and hitting peace, and to be able to lay down and not having that inner anxiety. And I think that's the number one thing. Once that starts, like that ball starts going back and forth, you get a jump on it right off the get, chill out, and then visualize after you're done getting all the stuff, because I mean, obviously you can't just, some people can, but just to jump right into, all right, it's going to be all good. It's more like, all right, let the thoughts hit so then they can be cleaned out and we can just build that new foundation. And that's, I mean, you just saying it there makes me really need to step up my meditation game, because I've had some small little pebbles kind of feel like they can trip you up, and it's like, whoa, dude, like, all right. And, you know, the spirits already know what your weaknesses are. And so they're going to be like, do you want to really hit that next level, or are you just talking crap? And then there you go. There's the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's, we're all human. We're trying to become gods. You know, that's the goal. But in the process, we are human, and we've all got so many like hang-ups, and we've all got so much shit that just stuff you have to deal with. It's just life. It's just being human. When you hit the point, there's a crossing point that you reach where you go from practicing magic to being magic. That I'll tell you what, and like I said, I've been doing this for like just about my whole life, and I'll still hit points. Like, for instance, my girlfriend's been sick as shit. Like, she started getting she's had stomach issues, really sensitive digestion and whatever, and she's, for the most part, she's gotten her diet locked in so that she's identified the stressors and has taken those out. But for like about a week ago, she just starts, I mean, just crippling pain in her stomach, and wasn't able to go to work one day, and I'm watching her suffer, and dude, I kind of feel like a dick because I didn't even think about it until like 3 days into it. And I'm like, hey, baby, you want me to throw some good energy your way? And she's like, oh God, I wish you would. I'm like, fucking don't hesitate to ask me. But you know, I just don't even think about it sometimes. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I've got something that can help this. And like, no matter what the problem is, magic is the solution. Like, I got a sigil of Marbos out, gazed at it, and I mean, I didn't do a massive ritual. Usually for myself, when I'm doing things just privately, I don't put on a big old show. I don't have cameras running. It's just me. I don't need that. The big display, that can help. That can help you get in the state. But for the most part, a good deal of that is to help the audience get in that state. Help the audience. You know, if I'm just sitting here, you know, if you see my microwave in the background and and whatever. It's like people go, well, what the hell? I thought this was magic. So, but anyway, so I just charge up the sigil of Maribus and focus on it. See her feeling, you know, and what you've got to do is you've got to connect it to what is going to happen when the ritual is successful. And so for me, when I'm working for her, I'm not able to really visualize her feeling better because that's her experience. So what I'm seeing as I'm gazing at the sigil is her saying, "Oh, babe, I feel so much better." Just walked onto that, boom. "Oh, babe, I'm feeling so much better." Repeat over as I'm gazing at the sigil. "Oh, babe, I feel so much better," and I'm making that real. I'm taking what my perceived reality is and I'm replacing it with what my desired reality is. Sigil flashes and I get pulled into it and you know I feel a connection with Marbas and he says, "It's done, don't worry about it." And he flashes in my head to fold the sigil up and put it behind her mirror. She's got a full-length mirror in our bedroom. And so I went and did that and just tucked it in there because that's where she looks at herself. That's where she'll go reflect, you know, see her reflection and whatever. For whatever reason, that was an important place to put that. So I tucked it behind her mirror and didn't say another word to her about it. Swear to God, about 15 minutes later, "Oh, babe, I'm feeling so much better." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah." She goes, "I don't know. Maybe it's because like I ate a really good breakfast this morning or something, but my stomach is just like great." And ever since then, that was that was early on. Actually, that was last week. So it's been almost a full week at this point. Not a problem with her stomach. And so it's like when you have mundane things pop up, just mundane problems. If you can remember to bring it back to magic, to apply magic to it, I mean, you can do anything, and your life just goes pretty smoothly. I mean, you do open up I think maybe higher degrees of problems that you have to solve at that point. Because here's the thing. As soon as the universe realizes you're playing with it, it plays back. It's like, "Oh yeah, oh you think you let's check this out."
Yeah, that's something I'm really noticing. You know, I've been trying to. There's a couple big products I'm going after, and you know, finally I'm starting to see how I'm able to develop as an artist. I'll tell you, once you really know your that divine light inside, I can project like no other. Before I was like, I'm trying to tell these people this, but now I'm like, no, I'm just making statements because I believe them, and that's my number one key. And Lucifer's definitely, beyond all doubt, helps in that sense. I had anxiety really bad over stupid stuff, and it was just like, dude, remember, you're a god. Remember that. Remember, become, and then after all this stuff, I'm just learning more about myself, what I'm going after, and you know, learning more. It's funny because when you ask a question or, you know, ask a spirit a question or even just yourself in your head, and then later on in the day, maybe someone like walks in front of you and says that exact statement to what you're looking for or, you know, anything along those lines. I'm like, man, there's so many bigger things going on here. And that's, so when things aren't so divine, I hate when like hopping out of that mind state, you know. I don't know. I don't know if you suffer with that. That's one thing. Like, I'm like, dude, this is such a magical day. This past 10 days have been amazing. There's no way all this stuff isn't making it, you know, it's all real. And I need to tell everyone in the world and let's make a change. And then like just stupid shit the next 2 days. And then you're sitting there like, man, do I really got any powers? And I think that's what it is. It's the universe like, oh, okay, buddy, here you go. And that's, you know, chaos happens when you do magic, and then the thing can come to you. I mean, that's a big thing that's been injected in my head. Mm-hmm. So now when things get crazy, I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. In fact, let's let it happen. Because once the explosion happens, and then you get inside of the peace state and just accept, I guess you could say, accept saying, it doesn't matter. We're getting to where we need to on the track, even if we have to go through a little bit of this and that. I think overcoming that is the number one, and that's a big key because that stuff can happen to someone who does magic, and then they're like, oh my gosh, it didn't work. And then all of a sudden their mind shifts into all this bad stuff, and it's like a universe is like, we're giving you a test. And I mean, me saying that to you is really me saying it to myself right now, like a reaffirming, you know?
So it is it's a universe playing with you sometimes. Sometimes also though, it's especially when you're when you're doing, let's say you do a ritual for something, you perform a ritual or a meditation, you put your will out in the universe for some sort of change. At this point, I have to say, every ritual I do works, and I can look back through my magical history, look back through my journals, and go, oh yeah, every ritual I've done has worked, but almost every single one of them has not worked the way that I thought it would. And so, for instance, I had this goal. I was working at a cabinet shop doing cabinetry. I love it. I love doing woodwork. I love working with paints and stains and stuff. So it was an awesome job, and I had used magic to get that job. But I was like, I want to take my writing career to a completely other level. I published a few books at that point. I was like, I want to make a serious payday. I want to start getting paid for my and serious payday being like making enough money to step away from my day job. And so at that point for me, that was like $20 an hour. And so if I can make $20 an hour writing books, hell yeah, I'm going to do it. So I start doing evocations and manifestations to make that happen. And then I get to Timothy, my partner now at Become a Living God. He hits me up and he's like, hey, I had done an interview with Robert Bruce, one of his clients and friends. And so he's like, yeah, I saw that Robert Bruce interview. It was really awesome. Would you be interested in doing like a documentary film series on magic? And I'm like, I don't know anything about like movies. I'm not an actor or anything. So no, I'm a writer though. I'll write anything. He's like, think about it. And I'm like, all right. And he hits me up a couple months later. I'm like, yeah, I guess I could do something like that. Yeah. Finally, when we decided to start Become a Living God, he mailed me his camcorder, and I was like, dude, I thought you were gonna send like a film crew over. Like, what am I supposed to do with this shit? And he's like, yeah, you push the record button and just start talking. And I'm like, what? I don't think you heard me. I'm a writer. And he's like, he goes, you're a magician. Just start talking about magic. Okay, all right, cool. I never in my life would have thought that I was doing. I mean, because I'm writing constantly. And I'm getting paid for writing, but at the same time, getting paid for doing videos, for consultations, for all of this other stuff that I had no clue was even in the picture. So in my like fragile human mind, I'm going, I want to write and I want to make money writing. And the powers that be are like, okay, we're going to take that and we're going to make it work because that's what you asked for. But there's going to be more involved than you ever thought. There's going to be surprises, and there always are surprises that. It doesn't matter what you're trying to manifest, that there's always a the way that you've imagined it is limited, and so these powers can take away those limitations. The way I describe it is like, especially with really, really hardcore changes you want to make in life, it's like a tornado just comes and picks your whole life up and throws it up in the air, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't what I want, and then boom, when it falls, everything is exactly where it needs to be. But while it's spinning in the air, you gotta try not to freak out. Like that is your main goal, is to try to remain calm, because it's all going to land exactly where it should.
Is that how been like all these gatekeepers have been for you? Let me just get the out of my mouth. But yeah, has it been pretty? I know when you talked about Belial, I mean, everyone who talks about him, it's like, dude, he comes in, Shazam, boom, and then dial it like this. I definitely called out and just said I need to get. All I know is that it was hitting me every time I was going on a run outside, and like I was pushing myself training. He would just pop up like this for months and months, and like I knew what it was, and I would laugh because I was like, I know what I have to do, but he's the most. Honestly, one of the most intimidating ones, because you're like, oh my gosh, dude, King Belial, like, all right. But I just kept running, and all of a sudden in my life, just so many things could knock me down. I felt so weak. And I remember pushing myself the hardest I could outside. It was like wintertime. I have my toe shoes on. I look ridiculous out there, but I'm just going, because at that point, let's get it. And I remember just like this face just flashed. I was on fire, and I was like, all right, I get it. So I just got out my car and called out, just, basically help me get to my goals and stop the bullshit. and it's just been incredible. My diet, I'm like hardcore on the diet, and I'm pushing myself harder than ever. And there's nothing else I'm doing. It was just one time knowing that's it. And then once everything's good, you know, give thanks. Like it's and that's one other thing. Some people are like, you have to stay in contact, this and the other. Sometimes I think it's just making contact and then going after your stuff, and everything else goes in line versus this hold my hand the entire time, you know?
Well, so there's something to be said about like the novelty of ritual, right? So, you know, when I was a kid, I was raised Mormon, so every night we'd read scriptures as a family. We had a big old Mormon family. I got four sisters and two brothers, and so we'd all gather around the living room and pass the Book of Mormon around and Bible or whatever, and read scriptures, and then we'd say our prayers. And it was it was honestly just lip service, like most of the time when people are praying and doing things that are spiritual, it's just they're just going through the motions, right? Mm-hmm. When I actually learned how to really pray, how to put your energy out there and truly invoke power. If I say a prayer over a meal, because I'll go to friends' houses that are Christian and they'll pray before their meals, and if they ask me to, yeah, absolutely. I don't care what name of what God I call. It's all the same to me. But every time I'll open my eyes after the prayer and people are crying at the table. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I can feel the spirit so strong in here. I'm like, yeah, no, you should. But yeah, but there is a matter of when it becomes a mundane act, when it's just like you're just going through the motions, you're blowing out the birthday candles, it doesn't mean much. You know, if you do have to kind of separate a bit. I mean, on one hand, you want to take magic into your life with you. You want to walk around and be a magical being. Like I said, be a Jedi where you use stoplights and shit. But at the same time, especially when you're working with entities, and especially when you're working on here's what it is when you're working on things that you're attached to, you have to take the ritual, push all of your attachment, all of your desire out, and then shut the door. The more time you spend worrying about it, the less likely you are to get it. You know, if let's say you do you do a ritual to reconnect with an old friend, and you're like, oh, I really hope they call me, and you're sitting by the phone waiting. As long as you're sitting by the phone waiting, they ain't gonna call. It's as soon as you stand up and walk away and go, okay, I guess they're never calling, that's when the phone rings. So yeah, so there is that matter of like you said, you call them, you call the spirit, you ask them for what you need, or you do the meditation, you focus on the end result, you release it, and there's something that you can experience, like you feel it. You feel like a shock wave, like it's so nuts because you feel it like something drops inside of you, like you drop inside of yourself, boom, you hit the bottom, and then there's a poof, shock wave of power. You can feel the moment where it's like it's like the rubber band breaking. You can feel where the anxiety leaves you. You can feel the tension just flood away, and you're like, okay, it's gonna be okay. At that point, you fold the sigil up and you're done. Go about your life. And that is when you're gonna see. I mean, real miracles happen is when you can just let go.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said that. It's really awesome. That's really helping me like right now. Some stuff I've been my attachment. I didn't have attachment. Calling out to Belial and just saying, you know, basically let me get my ass together in shape, and then just like because I was already doing it, but then like just didn't let it go and be like, because first off, everything I read about him, because I want to make sure. People that don't do this immersion thing, I don't understand. Some people are just like, I'm just going to call him that. What'd you know about him? I don't know. He looked cool. Oh, yeah, that's really good, man. But just to let it go and not be knocking on the door again, you know, being like that. And he's the first one I've ever like seen besides Lucifer, like Shazam, like big time boom. And that's I don't know, that's incredible. So everything else I have too much attachment to, and that's the issue. It's becoming unattached. And I've already got so many downloads, dude. Like you've already downloaded so much into me, man. I'm like in the Matrix chair, by the way. I like that chair you got.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah. But you know, as far as like the attachment thing, you know, it's you have all of these. If you look at the magical and spiritual systems across the world throughout history. That's the kind of key point that all of them keep guiding towards is to not be attached. Just let go, just let go. And you know, you do have to focus on what you want, put it out there, but then you have to just detach yourself. The way that Azazel described it was awesome. It was that, you know, you have to become more attached to the reality you want than you are the reality that presents itself. I hit up Azazel's got this right hand man Antaratu that he introduced me to years ago. So I evoke Antaratu, and he shows up. He's wearing, every time he shows up, he's wearing like this dark blue robe. And when I say that, you know, people get the wrong impression. It's not like Buffy the Vampire Slayer type of shit. It's I see it in my mind's eye. It picks up the vision, and it's like a flash. And then as I take that flash and focus on it more and more and more, I'll project it outside of myself and go, okay, it's not just in my head, but I can feel the spirit here. So where is Antaratu? And I can feel him. Okay, he's over there. And so I'll look over there, and it's like the projection from my head starts to fizzle into the world, and my eyes start to think that they see. It's like a trick. It's like your mind does this flip flop where the internal becomes external. But if you're in such an altered state that when you come out of it, when you rise back through the brainwave states, and you're back in like alpha or beta brainwave state, you're like, oh, that was weird. That must have been a dream. But in the moment, it's like, whoa, you're standing there with a demon in front of you. But so I call Antaratu, and I'm like, tell me about this attachment stuff. And he's all like, here's the thing. He goes, attachment's not the problem. The problem is you're attached to too many things. So what you need to become severely attached to one thing. If you're attached to like all these things, you're attached to your car, you're attached to your job, your girlfriend, this and that and that, you're spreading your attachment way too thin. Attachment can be a power if it's focused. And so he said, what you should focus on, all of your attachment, all of your desires should be focused on who you want to become. It doesn't matter what you get. It doesn't matter what you do. All of those things are just the result of who you are. And so who do you want to become? Focus yourself on that. And then that vision is the only thing that's important. The relationships you have, the job you have, honestly, all of that's bullshit. The people that fill the positions in your life, it doesn't matter who those people are. It doesn't matter what the company you work for is. I want a job that treats me well, that I make money at, that I'm respected, and that I'm fulfilled. Okay, you have that. If you say I want that within the field of cabinetry, you're going to be limiting the scope a bit and maybe not getting what you want. If you say I want a relationship with this girl, and I want her to love me, and I want her to do everything that I tell her to do, blah 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 blah, and you get very specific about it, and you try to control it too much. That's when it almost always fails. But if you say, you know what, I'm in a perfect relationship, it's so awesome. If I focus on, I want my relationship to be great, and I'm not trying to control my girlfriend. I'm not trying to manifest a new person. I'm just saying, whatever relationship I'm in, here's what I want that to look like. It happens every time, every single time.
Oh, wow. That's the too small scope of the thing and getting more broad, but yet being, it's very specific. That makes sense. That's because it's too controlling, and that's the big thing. That's exactly what it is. It's supposed to be breaking free of the control. And so why would you want to pull yourself free out of the matrix per se, and yet you're trying to put all this other stuff in it? It's more about just being all around with it. And that's man, dude. Let me I'll pull up another little question here. Let's get more back into the conspiracies. So like with David Icke, when he talks about the Saturn matrix, like on top it has that star. Okay, so and then that's all inside of churches and in just different places for power. It's on the Chinese checkerboard. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure. So I'm just saying, so all that is this power that I feel like is like radiated within this world, and it's a type of grasp. Now I know Azazel is like a king of Saturn. So that's my one thing inside my head. It's like, wait a second. Does that mean that he's behind the control on this? I don't really think that, but it's just, there's second questions about things. So yeah, I'd love to hear your intake on that.
Yeah, man. All right, Saturn is a nutty thing because All right. There are theories out there that and I don't know that this is literally true. Okay, but it's an interesting concept. So there are theories that Saturn was our original sun, that we had the Earth, Mars. Most of our planets were revolving around Saturn, and we were close enough to it that we were gathering light and heat, but it was supposedly violet, so it was basically ultraviolet light that was high enough on the spectrum, a specific point on the spectrum that we inherited certain capabilities just from being that close to Saturn. And then because of just the development of the cosmos, that we run into the path of what's now our sun. And so there's a gravitational collision that the sun and Saturn come close enough to each other that Saturn gets locked in the sun's orbit. It throws everything out of whack. And it's interesting because if you look at all of the myths that talk about the flood, that you have this deluge, you have this flood that occurs, and after the flood, so in order for a flood of that scale, of a worldwide scale to happen, there's got to be some massive planetary trauma. Also, at that same point, people's lifespan starts decreasing. It goes from like 1,000 years to less than 100 years, less than sometimes 30 years. So possibly that could be because we stopped revolving around Saturn and we started revolving around the sun instead. So our path of orbit was a lot longer. Anyway, so that's interesting to think about on the cosmological view. On the mythological view, though, it kind of makes sense because in every mythology, the entities associated with Saturn are the ancient ones. They're the oldest entities. So you've got these ancient gods, Titans. In every religion they've kind of got a different name, but they're the ancient ones. Then you've got the solar deities that are born. They're the new guys that come into the block, and they start pushing the Titans around. And they kick the Titans out. They kick them out into the abyss, or they lock them in ice shelves, or whatever, depending on the mythology. And so the young gods come and take over. The ancient gods are locked out until the end of days, where the ancient gods finally break free. They rise up and they take over again. So it's this play, but that's definitely reflection of the Saturn Sun mythology.
Wow.
Azazel is heavily associated with Saturn. Most of these entities are. Like I was told that there's a gateway on the moon Mimas. That's if you look at Saturn's rings, you've got a few different black spots inside of the rings at different areas. Mimas is inside of one of those rings. It's on kind of the outer edge of it. And I was told there's a gateway there, and if we could travel there physically in a ship, that we may be able to access some other fucking dimension or something through that moon. That would be awesome. I don't know that that's real. Like it's a lot of this I have to look at, and I'm like, okay, so these are symbols that are being told to us so that we can use them to help manage our personal lives and develop our power. But I'm always blown away with how literal they can be, like how literal sometimes it can be. So as far as Saturn goes, yeah, you do see some crazy stuff. You look at the Kaaba. That's the big stone that Muslims will go and walk around. It's the pilgrimage. They go to Mecca and they go do a counterclockwise circumambulation around this huge cube that's sitting there. Huge black cube. That's a symbol of Saturn. So every single person who worships Allah and goes on that pilgrimage is actually worshiping Saturn. You've got that same thing that's reflected over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so there is something to that, where David Icke and these fellows get where they always get off base is by looking at it and saying that that's not to be used. Okay, so the elites use it, so it must be evil. So we shouldn't ever touch Saturn. Well, wait a minute. They're using it for a reason. Like, I mean, yeah. I look at some of the training. When I was 17 years old, I joined the Marine Corps and had a short-lived, not even a career. It was barely a job. But I did go through training and everything. And with that, like, the military training, especially in the Marine Corps, it's brainwashing 100%. I had the word kill going through my mind, kill, because that's how we would respond to our orders. They tell us forward march, kill, and so I had kill in my head. But just because something is geared in a way that's negative, which that was very negative, that doesn't mean that the technique should be abandoned. So the technique of the repetition of one word over and over and over again, that can be powerful. That can be very powerful. So anyways, if you take the methods that you see the elites are using, take those methods and start applying them yourself, you can do some amazing things. And once again, it's all of these religions, world governments, the what I call the underground world empire, they've just co-opted ancient technology. I mean, it's not theirs. They didn't create this. They didn't create Saturn. They didn't create these rituals. These are just people that came across it and basically took it and started using things that are ancient. And so, yeah, that's stuff that we all ought to be tapping into.
Yeah, that's actually a way better perspective than when I thought. I'm over here. I'm still figuring. I have to break the duality. Because I was a Christian for, 25 years. So like getting that hit into your head, like taking a step away. I mean, it took me hitting rock bottom before like I could finally, even though I was obsessed, just loving reading about, different types of magics. And I would go to people's houses, and I still do. I mean, it's not very often anymore, but I do a cleansing of the house. And, I'd love doing that because when I started when I was 19, I did magic. It was all for love. And, I didn't know anything. I was just like, I'm just going to keep reading these books and do this. And I didn't even know who I was, living a dualistic life. Like, oh, I'm a Christian, I can do this. And I eventually got a succubus attached to me. I'd see things flying, like black orbs. And I would always be up at 3 a.m. all the time, and all this stuff would happen. It was going on for like 8 months. So I'd always hang out with people because I didn't want to deal with it. I remember one morning waking up and then just seeing her standing right next to me. And, it pushed me to learn more and more. But then it also, to like break free from all that. But then, you find out that's also the thing. You're right. You got conspiracists. Most of them are just saying all this is evil. Everything is evil versus this is a power that can be wielded, and the truth can be known to everyone to have it. But there's these people that are holding it back and, killing people for power. And that's really the messed up thing. I reading the Old Testament, one of your old videos really nailed it in. And I remember writing down every Bible verse, dude, and I went and read, and they say, the Old Testament and New Testament, it's the same God. I'm like, dude, it's not. And if a omnipresent God who I'm supposed to give my all love to changes like that and says you can kill for me and make them slaves and all this, and then I'm going to be judged at the end here, that's a little harsh, man. Like, I would rather just exactly walking as a Jedi, what kind of a gray Jedi, because at the end of the day, we're going to be able to use whatever is needed. That's the biggest thing. Some people are very against, I guess you could say, even me saying, some people might take this offensive. In fact, I called upon a demon, a king demon, Belial, to get myself like grounded and really getting my shit together with who I am and all that. And, even that skewed judgment, it's crazy how much separation these people that really know what's going on have made. People are hating each other because you like this football team. I'm a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all this division. versus seeing us all as like these shiny divine beings. And I mean, that's the big thing about learning about Inky. I was going to ask you this too. Inky and his relation to Lucifer, because I've been so dived into the just all the Sumerian stuff, their religion, getting involved, hearing that, and you know, even hearing about Enema, I think that's how, I mean, I might be saying it wrong, but her descent into the underworld for 3 days and then coming back. And, you know, that's like the first religion that we really have to date. And then, you know, the same thing with Jesus Christ and all that. It's just, I don't know, it really brings out the truth. You got to go dive deep into the roots, and people won't do that. But, yeah, my question would be, do you see those two as being related, or it's just a face, a mask of Lucifer? Because I know that's also a thing, you know, because there's a peacock and all that. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. There's, you know, and I'll tell you what, it's hard to say because all right, so you take the name Lucifer, and that is a very, it's actually a very specific entity. It's a very specific entity that in our Western world has become very broad. And so, you know, it started out with just this, it was like actually kind of a minor entity, a minor god, not even the god of the sun, but Lucifer was the god, the angel that would bring the light of the sun to the earth. And once again, a minor, like basically a minor cult deity. And then as Christianity grows and grows and grows, the whole myth of Lucifer gets to the point they're like, oh, he's the Lord of Darkness, he's the Emperor of Hell and all of that. Okay, well, all right. So a lot of associations have been made there, and it's not like those associations aren't real. It's just maybe they aren't original, and that is something. You know, when you talked about duality and getting away from duality, and that's duality is so pervasive in that we think of these things, okay, so it's either Enki or Lucifer, or, you know, are these beings part of my consciousness or are they real? See, it's like we divide these things into an either or with almost everything. Is it this or is it that? And most of the time, especially when we're dealing with these things, most of the time it's both. And so I look at Enki and Lucifer. I mean, they seem like they're very, very similar in the goals that they had. I mean, Enki was all about the enlightenment of the individual. He was all about personal freedom. And so a lot of those things do echo through Lucifer and his personality. Is it the same being? I mean, the thing is like we're not really dealing with beings here at all. We're not dealing with like embodiments and entities. We think we are. We're dealing with like a stream of power. It's like if I'm sitting here, and which if I tune myself in, I can see the currents of power floating around. I've got like some red and some yellow and some purple. We have a little purple streak that goes across here, and I take that purple streak. I go, okay, come here, and I put it in a body, and that becomes Lucifer, or that becomes Enki. It's like that. It originally didn't have a body. It didn't have a name. Maybe it did. See, now this is where it gets a little nuts, because for the most part, these are currents of power that can become embodied based on our perceptions, based on our expectations. They speak the language we speak. They have bodies that look very much like us. So these are projections that we're helping facilitate through our senses. But they're originally just these currents of power. Now, that does get confusing for me, because as I'm tracking these gatekeepers, it seems like the opposite. Once again, if they're appearing to all these different religions and they're appearing in the same manner, if they're have, you know, similar aspects of the name and characteristics and personalities, then I got to say, wait a minute, maybe it's not just a stream of energy. Maybe there's an actual identity here, and it does seem like there is. So yeah, but that energy and that entity, whatever it is, it's not beyond our comprehension. I mean, that's a cop out. Like when people are like, oh yeah, you don't even worry about this stuff because it's beyond your ability to understand. It's like, no. We can understand some of it, maybe not all of it, but enough that it's worth pursuing. So with something like that, like I look at Enki and Lucifer, and yeah, there's a connection there. They could very well be the same energy current, or the same entity that's manifesting in different bodies, the same psychological aspect, because just because it's part of your consciousness doesn't mean it's also not part of the cosmos. And so we have to look at that and go, well, maybe it's both. Maybe it's all of those things. It does get really difficult, especially when you're dealing, once again, with a being like Lucifer, whose name is out there all over the place, and he's associated with just about every entity out there. Because you can go, okay, well, is Lucifer, did he appear once as Baal? Well, yeah, probably. Oh, did Lucifer appear once as this guy, as this guy, as this guy? And we could say they're all manifestations of the same thing. But in the same way, we can say that you and I are the same consciousness experiencing itself in different bodies. So it's like really hard to draw the line between where things divide.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was watching a video about Hecate and how she's kind of like that whole in all consciousness, and kind of like source. That's the only way I can put it. You know, that everything, the rock, even that plastic thing. And thinking like that is just a lot. The only way I can put it is a lot easier and smoother, because then everything's kind of like a river and all just kind of runs together. And, I'm always like thinking about the whole Lucifer Inky thing, because I'm like, well, were we created by this, created by that? And then was my chains broken by this, a god or anything? Because the way I see, I have to be my own individual God, but I want to be able to connect to the ones that are going to help me be able to grow the greatest and can help me make the biggest change to help humanity. Because I really do love humanity, but I see that, that darkness over them and shit. I'm being a part of the 10% to push that over so we can all be awake and, actually make some strides, maybe hit Star Trek level. Like, honestly, I'm down with it. Like, let's hit things up to another thing. And, I always wanted my feet in the right, and I guess, I'm not making too much sense. It's, I think about Yahweh and all of that's been into me, and then being like, was I free by Lucifer? Because that's going to make me feel even more connected versus just making a friend with a spirit. I mean, I go into Shintoism and find one of their gods and make a friend, but it's more like, oh, is this the divine being that set me free? And I don't know. That's just something I guess you could say I struggle with, because I want to make my connections to all the spirits, like Raphael the Archangel. Amazing. Every time I have any pain or anything like that, or anxiety about something, call upon, and I'm like touched and I feel amazing, because I have that full belief. And I don't know why I just think about Lucifer. I think it's just because it's so charged, and so everyone uses it, and it's always so skewed. And it's been like that because the elites are like, we don't want them to have any control into knowing what we know. And I think that's a part of this whole game and gambit of it all.
Yeah. And as far as like the question of the question of human evolution is a nutty one. Like, because you're saying, well, was Enki the one that set you free? Was Lucifer? Who was the... especially when we start going way back and going back to like, where did our current permutation of humanity come from? That's when shit gets nutty, because first off, the archaeological record that we have just keeps going back further and further back in time. Like what you and I, when we were like in middle school and in elementary school, what they were telling us that the history of humanity was, dude, they pushed that back thousands and thousands of years at this point. You've got this site, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, that's like this mountain. And so this guy's up there walking his dog on this mountaintop, and his dog falls in a hole, and he's like, oh shit. So he goes, gets a team up there to help him get his dog out of this hole. And they're like, well, this isn't just a hole in a mountain. It's a temple complex. The entire mountain is one of the oldest temples that's ever been discovered. It's multi-layered. The top layer was built by the most recent civilization, because they would build one, the next generation would build the next level, and then the next level, going up. And they've only uncovered like 3 or 4 levels, and we've already pushed the archaeological record back by at least a few thousand years. Now, each level they uncover is going to take us back further and further and further, and we're learning more and more and more about basically the start of our civilization. So with that, like we really have no idea where we came from, but it does seem it seems like we're not the first attempt that our current human species, we're like we're the latest model. I think this has been tried a few times and tried and abandoned or maybe self-destroyed or whatever. We've made it pretty far so far, and the entities that I call the gatekeepers, they take credit for it. They're like, hey, we help stimulate the changes in your environment and in yourselves that have brought you to this level of evolution. And they're like, we're here to stimulate the next level. We're here to bring you to the next level of your evolution. And it's like, well, that's badass. It's hard to believe it, just because there's that every entity. All right, so I'm here in Utah. Right? I'm in southern Utah, and so we got Mormons everywhere. And Mormons love to talk about their religion, and so I love to talk about religion too. So we'll have great conversations. Now I'm playing hacky sack out with some friends, and I'm in high school sitting out under the street light playing hacky sack, and these missionaries come by, and they're on their way back home, and so they stop and they're like, hey, yeah, have you guys checked out the Book of Mormon? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I probably read it more times than you've looked at the cover, but yeah, let's talk. And they're like, yeah, he goes, it's not just about reading it. You have to read it and then pray about it. And like, okay, so what should I be praying for then? He goes, just pray that you'll know it's true. I'm like, well, first off, that's a stupid way to do an experiment. Pray to see if it's true. Why don't I pray to see if it's true or false? Like, pray to see what the reality is. If I pray and ask God, is this true? I'm already setting the intention. Yes, it's true. And he's like, yeah, okay, I can see that. And I go, tell you what, if you go grab the Satanic Bible, read it, and perform one of the rituals in the back, and then ask Satan when he's manifested there in the room with you, and say, Satan, tell me if this is true. He's going to say yes. You do that with any religion. Call on Krishna. Ask Krishna, hey, are you true? Yeah, he's going to say yes. All of these beings are going to verify their own selves, and so it gets to be hard, because when you're dealing with when you're dealing with entities inside of a system, that system for them is the only reality. We as human beings are pretty unique in that we can kind of expand and pull from all of these different things. Raphael, for instance. So Raphael is bound to a very specific system. I've never tried this, but I would imagine you can't really evoke Raphael using the name of Satan. You can't be like, in Satan's name, you can't come. Like, he's gonna be like, what the hell are you doing? So you do have to operate within their system, and what that means is that these beings have they're locked into their own belief system. Like, and especially beings that are created by religion. Like, Raphael, I think, is a current of energy of that healing, life-giving energy that's been named Raphael. It's been given this specific identity, and so it follows specific rules of that religion, and it believes fully in that religion. But anyway, so these beings, these gatekeepers, are like, yeah, we created you, and it's like, well, before I start worshiping you, I'm going to need to validate that.
Yeah, that's huge. That's I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with everything. I'm like, I'm down. Like, my fire for what I want to do, it's uncovering the veil, finding power, and be able to use it to help the world. I'm on fire about that. And like, any individual that would want to be against that, that's just a boulder just going to be blasted aside, because it's a great goal and everything. And so I'm like, any being that's going to help me with that, I don't care. If I have to go to the Norse pantheon and go find a being there, hey, voodoo, anything, like, whatever I need to do to have that so I can do the greatest help. And I don't know, that's been a great shackle on get off of me, especially, being within the Christian paradigm for such a long time.
Yeah, it's one of the things that something that helps a lot of people is especially people who are wanting to jump full bore into magic and are having hang-ups with their religion is to cut the tie, to be like, you know what, I don't know that this is the religion for me, and actually, especially when you've already made that choice, you're like, you know what, this is obviously not the religion for me. This is obviously not what I'm going to do with myself. But you're looking towards something like black magic, doing a rite of blasphemy, and that's intense, but doing something in a ritualized format that puts you beyond the salvation of the God that you're working with. So for me, I took Bible, Book of Mormon, and pictures of Joseph Smith and Jesus, and took them out into the desert and looked through them for a minute, kind of connected with the ideology and the energy of it, and then I lit them on fire, and then as they're burning, pissed on them and cursed God, just said, I'm done with you, and whatever. And it was silly, and I did that when I was like 16, and so it was like a 16-year-old anarchist, like, be like, fuck you, God. But in my mind, it was like I drew that line, and it's like, okay, well, that path is no longer available to me, so I've got to seek out whatever is, and that can be helpful to get over a lot of those things. The other thing is like there's a fear that people have that's been instilled by religion, like that if you deal with these things, that you're going to hell, you're going to be punished even in this life or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So what I like to do, and what I like to encourage people to do, is to use the fear in the ritual. So if you're afraid of it, and especially like if you're afraid of demons, for instance, when you go into the ritual, try to make yourself really afraid of demons. Don't just make it a little fear. Don't try to hide it, but be like, oh man, I'm terrified. And actually say it. I'm terrified to call you here, Satan, but I need you. And whatever. Whatever the emotion is that you can lock onto that's real, take it and amplify it. And if you can do that, you're going to be able to tap into a source of infinite energy within yourself. So one of the disciplines that I've looked at and trained myself a little bit in is neuro-linguistics programming. And so it's basically advanced hypnosis that you can use on yourself and others. That you say certain words with certain touches or certain motions in a way that is repeated in certain circumstances, and you can trigger yourself to do some awesome things. And one of the things that Richard Bandler teaches with neurolinguistics programming is to take any emotion that you have and see how intense you can make it. So if you're standing in line at the coffee shop and you're getting impatient, most people try to fight that impatience, right? They're like, oh, push it down. See how fun it can be to ramp up your impatience, to be really impatient, to be that douche that like can't stand still. You're like, come on, what's going on here? What's the line moving? See how intense you can make it, and it's like you start playing this game with yourself, and then what you start realizing is every emotion and every sensation leads to ecstasy. On the way to ecstasy, there's discomfort and pain, and then you break through, and it's like, oh, it's like constant orgasm wherever you're at, because you've taken your sensations and you amplified them. You just ramped them up to the next level. If you can do that, doing that in daily life is fun. Doing that in ritual is nuts. And so I actually like to call it verbally while I'm working with the spirit. So if I start feeling like maybe there's a presence in the room, I'll say, I can feel your presence in the room. Boom, it amplifies. Oh, I can feel you even stronger now. Where are you? Oh, I can feel you're over there. Okay, what are you wearing? And I'll start basically affirming the reality that's occurring. And as I do, I'm reinforcing it and making it stronger.
Wow. So you're really painting that picture more and more and like bringing it to life versus, just calling and then waiting and being like, okay, you're here. You're really able to tap into that, to lock on. That's the thing. That's a big, I don't have a triangle of manifestation. So anything I call, I'm like, at the end of the day, if it's a prayer, it's kind of like an email for you guys. If you guys get it, awesome, and push it. And I mean, in the sense, he's in a greater spiritual place, and I've been able to hit that, having even revelations I would have if I was in that position. So it's like, you know, overcoming a lot of stuff, as well as some other crap that's going on that, you know, it all happened in one day, all these things. And then my next day was my interview to have with you. And I'm like, dude, this is, it's great. All I can tell you is it's great. And all I was thinking about was I need to get some of those beads and keep myself in a meditative form way more. Like, it's so funny you say I think about the Jedi, because when people get in conversations and we get into that, or I do, you know, a prayer, what you say when people get in tears, people have that all the time with me. And it's because you're a spiritual being, you know, and really connected into that, and you're authentic. And I know, I don't know, it's crazy. And I that's why, you know, I found your channel. It's funny, you look almost identical to a cousin I have.
Huh.
So right when I saw it, and like how you guys talk too, like it's so funny. So it was about like 2.5 years ago, maybe even 3. Honestly, time is irrelevant, but yet it's something. I don't know. I saw that, and then I started watching all your videos, and it was really helpful, man. Like your seminars and all that. And, you know, it's such a different way to approach. And once you walk down that, then you get the full spectrum, and then you can go search within that, because without someone even, you know, going out of the box, it's just more people walking in this way. So again, like, thank you, Eric. I really appreciate your work, man. Thank you.
Oh man, yeah, thank you. You know, it's wow. So in the Mormon Church, where, you know, like I said, I was raised in the Mormon Church, and in the Mormon Church they have a each area, which is like a stake. So you have like different congregations that they call wards, and then you have multiple wards that are all kind of presided over by a stake president and whatever. So each stake, or you consider it like almost like a county or whatever, has a patriarch, and that patriarch has basically one job that he does for the church, and he does blessings. He does what's called a patriarchal blessing. He lays his hands on your head. And see, the Mormons, I'll tell you what, Mormons are really they believe in enough of this superstitious stuff to that it was a good thing to be raised in, because then, you know, having the idea that a person can lay their hands on your head and heal you and that sort of thing, that's a powerful kind of mindset. So this patriarch lays his hands on my head, and I was 19 or 20 when I first had that. Most people do give their patriarchal blessing when they're kids, but I fell away from the church when I was like 15, and came back to it for a couple of years as an adult, and enough to really dive into it and find out that it wasn't for me. But I give my patriarchal blessing. The dude lays his hands on my head, and I could feel a little something, a little energy, a little light coming through, but it wasn't anything intense. But I get the transcript of the blessing, and I've got that sitting around somewhere still. I read through it, and it's nutty, because it's I wanted it to say something about how I was going to get married in the temple to the girlfriend that I had at the time. Did not say that. Sure enough, she broke up with me shortly after that, and I thought it was going to say something about going on a mission for the Mormon Church. It didn't say anything about that. It did say that, because I told him when I started, I'm like, hey, I want you to tell me about the mission I'll go on, and you know, kind of, I started trying to fine tune. To tell you what, let's just see what the Spirit has to say. And I'm like, all right, we'll do that. But he says, that I would thrill with the quality of life change that my message would bring to people. And I was like, I read that, and I've got my buddy Scott that's with me, and he's all, that's weird. I'm like, why is that weird? He says, well, in every other patriarchal blessing I've seen, it says the message of the Lord, or the gospel of Jesus. It doesn't say your message. So he goes, here it's saying that you're going to thrill with the quality of life change that your message brings to people, because I don't think you're going to be in the church. And I'm like, well, no. What are you talking about? Of course I'm going to be in the church. He's like, nah. Your message is not Jesus's message. If it was Jesus's message, it would have said Jesus's message. It's saying your message. And I was like, okay. But I'll tell you what, to this day, that's been like that's been the payoff. I mean, I make money at what I do, and I make really good money at what I do, actually. But the huge payoff for me is when people are like, hey, what you did changed my life. You know, what you did has changed my focus. It set me on the path I need to be on. There's nothing nothing I've experienced that's more gratifying than just knowing that whatever I'm doing, whatever inspiration or information or whatever it is that I can share, if somebody is able to have any increase in the quality of their life because of that, it's humbling. It's humbling because like on one hand, I don't feel like this is my message. On one hand, I feel like I'm the messenger for things that I barely even understand. I'm still trying to figure all this out. Like the day that I have all this figured out, you're not going to hear another word from me. When I finally know the last fucking piece of information, I'm probably just going to disappear from the physical plane altogether. I don't know. But, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I that's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, no, you'll do actually what Obi-Wan Kenobi did. Tell you
Right?
the truth. Dude, but no, I've been going down, the whole Christian path. I got really highly into it. I thought I was going to be a priest for a little bit because I love the thought of exorcisms. I love the thought of having power within to do a divine light, to like expel something that's not helping, being able to do that change. And like, that's why I got so involved in all that, which obviously, as I've gone through all these loops, trying to grow with all that, I've been led down to this path. As a little kid, my favorite thing, my parents, I don't know what they thought about it, but like I love Spawn. I thought that thing was so cool. I was always like, I want to, when you say demon or something like that, to me, there's something I was like, ooh, like not like, oh, but like, ooh. And I'd always love all the like Exorcist movies and like all that type of stuff. And to be able to learn so much more, all the people who your videos that you guys have with Become a Living God, as well as your guys' forum. Your forum is phenomenal. I mean, there's some trolls. There's trolls everywhere, dude. There's trolls everywhere. But like,
Yeah.
you can be able to get the biggest. You had a video with J.S. Garrett, and you had said I don't know if it's from the Necronomicon, but like one of the biggest exorcism, what the statement was, but just like information like that, that's huge. So people could, if they did have any of that stuff going on in their house or anything like that, they could, build some control and all that. And that's cool. That's really synchronistic that you had that with your church.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, and so my daughter, my daughter's 13 at this point, and her from an early age, when she was just a toddler, she started having these experiences of like feeling that there were monsters in the room, stuff that most kids will do. But it seemed like she was taking it to another level. It was creating night terrors and she'd wake up screaming and that kind of thing. So I started teaching her how to do banishings. It's like, okay, so that's the problem. So here, come to the kitchen. You're going to grab some water out of the sink. You're going to put some salt in it, stir it around, do this. And I've guided her through the whole visualization. I'm like, if you're in a pinch, hold your right hand out, breathe in, pull light into yourself. And as you breathe out, push out your arm towards the entity and tell it to leave. And it'll leave. And just teaching her these like the methods that I'll use as a child, because it's like these are things that can help everybody. Like the once again, the quality of life change is intense, where all of a sudden you do have control over things you didn't have control over before. It opens yourself up to a new level of what you want to do with your life, who you want to become, what your whole existence is about. This is beneficial to everybody. Like I would love to someday see all of this being taught in school. The stuff that is now medicine. You go to the doctor. That used to be an occult art. That used to be witchcraft.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's studied. But now it's the same thing that doctors would have to do. They'd go dig up bodies and dissect them so they could figure out how the organs worked. That was evil shit back then. Now it's like, well, that's necessary in order to understand the human body. Well, we're kind of in the same place right now, but it's not with the body at this point. It's with the mind and the energy. That our science is starting to realize that there's much more to our reality than we give it credit. We've kind of touched on different conspiracy theories and stuff. I think it's super interesting the overlap between all of these different conspiracy theories. Like UFOs and aliens. You know, you look at all of that and go, well, wait. It's interesting because people who see UFOs are usually people who are out there looking for UFOs. You know, that you're opening your perception and you're seeing what you're not seeing what you want to see, but what you are looking for is manifested. Your reality shifts as you're perceiving things in a certain way. There's this dude out in Las Vegas, and he's been on the news a few times. He summons UFOs. He'll stand there in a park, and they had cameras and everything. They're all,
oh my crap.
He's all Jehovah, blah 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 blah, and then you see a blink, a shimmering freaking disc appear, and then another one appears, and then they just disappear. And he's like, yeah, see, and it's like he does this at will at any point, and it's like, well, that's nuts, but it's no more nuts than me performing a ritual here in this temple and having, I have poltergeist shit happen that is constant. It is constant in my house. My girlfriend is my girlfriend's a scientist and kind of a skeptic. Not kind of, she's really a skeptic. But she at this point, like we're sitting there in our kitchen, and the coffee cup is sitting on the counter. It's full of coffee, and it moves. And she's all, did you see that? And I'm like, see what? She's all, the coffee cup. I look at it, and it moves back the other way. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Kitchen cabinets opening and closing, footsteps in the hall, doors getting knocked on, and nobody's on the other side. It's constant. And it's like, well, this reality is what we're perceiving of reality is just a sliver. Like our senses are only catching a sliver of it. But there are whole layers and layers of reality that are happening right here. You know, you don't have to go. People think, you know, heaven, hell, astral plane, all of this, it's in another place. You've got to go through a doorway and go to this other place. The doorway is a shift of perspective. It's not another place. It's all just right here.
Oh, that, you know, think about the astral realm. That's perfect leading into that. Now I know it's all from within, so you have to get there inside of your mind. I mean, no shit. And I don't know why it's so difficult. Would you say there's certain things that hinder you being able to pop that perception, or it could just be your limited perception? Like for myself, it's difficult for me to jump through the body, and I've done a little bit. I know I should just get the soul travel, you know, get the course, dude. Everyone get the course. But being able to do that, you know, I know you focus on a point, you breathe out, and then you breathe out. But I think it's because my breathing, I used to smoke cigarettes all the time, and I'm still cleansing out my lungs. So my perception when I get to that, like all blackness, because I've went to those deprivation tanks, and I tried to do it there. Like that was my main purpose, to astral project. And it was like my breathing I wasn't focused on. And so then I feel like if my breathing's not all the way perfect, like my mind can't lead that, I have to overcome and cleanse my lungs, and then I'll be ready to do it. But then again, no, I mean, I guess that makes sense because, yeah.
How long has it been since you smoked?
I just had one of those pens, just like a vape pen, about 20 minutes ago. But other than that, that's it.
And I'll tell you what, so in the vaping thing, because I'm obviously vaping through our whole conversation here, and there are harms of it that we don't understand yet, whatever, but it's not even close to what a cigarette is. And like, you know, that, because I used to be pretty much a chain smoker at one point.
Yeah, me too.
And when people, here's the thing, is like, and people build it up like it's such a hard thing. They're like, oh yes, you know, you're gonna try to quit smoking, and then you're gonna fail a million times. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be the hardest thing in the world. It's harder than getting off of heroin. You hear all of this stuff, and so then when you try to quit, you've got all these beliefs about it. And I quit like 2.5, 3 years ago or something like that, and it wasn't hard at all because I changed that. I was like, you know what? It's not going to be hard. It's actually going to be pretty easy. I just rewired it in my head, and then it just naturally happened. But anyways, with with the breathing thing, so what's happening with astral projection and soul travel for you? I'm pretty sure is that you're not you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. You're like, my breathing is not right. Maybe I need to be breathing differently. Oh shit! It's because I smoke. You're getting all of this you're getting in your head. You need to get out of your head and get into your heart. All right. So you just shift that and get into the feeling of it. All right. So you start breathing, and as you breathe, you start feeling your astral body moving with your breath. All right. And then breathe out, and just with a force of will, you're just going to push yourself forward just a little, like you're tipping forward, and then tip back into your body. Okay. You're back. And then tip to the right, tip to the left. You're just tipping. You're just moving a little, and you can feel. You can actually feel yourself moving, even though you're not moving. Now, you start doing little exercises with that. You hold your hand on a piece of on a table or something, and then get in touch with your astral body of light, and then move your astral hand up while your physical hand stays still. You can feel it like peeling away, like peeling a banana.
I love bananas. That's great.
But yeah, but once you've played with that a bit and you get used to the feeling of it, then you just turn an object across the room. and this is the part that, like, I don't know why people don't, either people who are teaching this stuff don't understand it, or they're hiding something or something. But you have to have, okay, where your mind goes, the rest of you follows. All right. So if your mind is locked on your body, if you're like, I want to get out of my body, all you're thinking about your body. So when you try to astral project, where are you going to go? You're going to go to your body. So if instead I'm like, I want to go to the door, I'm going to go to the door. You close your eyes, see the room exactly as it is. And so that's the first step, is visualization, right? So a lot of people have a hard time imagining things, especially adults, because, when you're a kid, that's all you do. You're just living in your imagination. It's awesome. And your parents keep saying, hey, come back to reality. No, don't come back to reality. Stay in your imagination. See if you can sit there as an exercise for everybody. Take a random object. I've got my pipe here. I'm smoking tobacco out of this pipe, by the way, everybody. And this is actually, I'll smoke a pipe, and I've got cigars that I'll smoke. But aside from that, that's the only tobacco I really use. But anyways, take this pipe. I'll look at it. Okay, it's got a cool little like rim around it. It's got the stem. I'm gonna kind of memorize that for a second. I'm gonna set that, and then close my eyes and see if I can recreate that in my mind. And if I see if I can get it perfect. See if I can get it so perfect I can see the ash on the outside rim. If I can see like the little mark, the cut that's made, the bevel edge that's on the outside, the decorative edges. Try to create it as vividly as you can. Most people do have a hard time visualizing things clearly. And when they try to, it's almost like a cartoon in their head, and they only do it for a couple seconds. If you can get that to the point that you can visualize anything inside your mind and have it crystal clear, then at that point, yeah, you close your eyes, you recreate the room in front of you until you can see it in your inner vision. You're not forcing it, you're allowing it. So you're just allowing yourself to receive what it is. Now, what's interesting with that is, like, if you start doing that and you go, oh, wait a minute, that jewelry box that I normally keep these in when I'm not wearing them, it should be over here, but for some reason my mind's telling me it's over there. And then I open my eyes and go, oh shit, it actually is. I must have moved it last night, or must have moved it yesterday and not thought about it. So you start having things line up as you're just receiving, as you're just letting yourself be open, seeing what you see, and engaging with it. And then at that point, yeah, through your breath, as you breathe out, you just feel yourself once again peeling away and flying towards that door. And boom, that door is in front of you. See if you can see it, and see if you can see it as close as possible. So like, I'll have people do this, and I'll have them get right up next to an object. I'm like, you zoom in. I mean, you want to zoom in and lock yourself onto that object and see how many angles you can see it from. Now I had to do that. I had a Windex bottle. That's all I could find at the moment. I'm like, all right, boom, Windex bottle. I put it across the room, and I'm like, all right, go. And he's like, oh, it just feels like it's just in my head. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just go do the exercise and go see what you see on there, and just come back and tell me what it looks like. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. We're just playing right here. We're just playing. He goes and does that, comes back, and he goes, this is stupid. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? What's stupid? He's like, I'm seeing the bottle, but I'm seeing like this red circle that has the number 1 and a dollar sign. I'm like, okay, that's weird. I don't know what the hell that is. So I go walk over, grab the Windex bottle. On the back of it, the side that he couldn't see, that I couldn't see, it has a red sticker on it, $1 off. Are you serious?
Oh.
It was his first time trying it, and all of a sudden, boom, he's picking it up. But while he's doing it, while he's having the experience, he's going, oh man, it seems like it's just all in my head. It seems like I'm just imagining it. Okay, so at first, maybe you are. Like at first, maybe it is just imagination. Maybe it's not. But as you push it further and further and further, it solidifies. It does hit a point where it's like it crystallizes and becomes undeniably real. Same thing with dealing with spirits. So if you want to do an evocation of a spirit, you get the sigil out, you gaze at the sigil, relax. I can't even tell you how important it is to relax. That's I'll hand people an object, you know, and I love doing in-person work with people because you get to have a whole energetic exchange. But I'll hand somebody an object and I'll be like, all right, put your power in this object, put your energy into it. They're like, okay. So they hold it out and they get really tense, and their whole muscle, their arms muscles are just flexing. Their jaw starts getting clenched up. They're like, ah. Like, oh, whoa. you got to relax, man. Like you have to stop. It's like Yoda. You got to stop trying. There is no try. There's do or do not. So you just relax and you just let it flow. True power is effortless. And so as you look at any martial arts, those guys are relaxed as fuck when they're doing. I've got a buddy that does jujitsu, does Gracie style jujitsu, and I watch that dude. He throws people across the freaking room, and he is so relaxed. Like the whole time, he's like, yeah, you can't get tense. That's when you hurt yourself. So you relax, pay attention specifically to your face muscles. You know, if your forehead's getting all wrinkled up, you're trying too hard. If your eyes are getting squinty, you're trying too hard. Relax. And so if you start feeling, just pay attention to your face muscles. If you start feeling that tension, breathe in, exhale, and release it. And it's gone. And then so you're summoning a spirit, you get the sigil out, relax, gaze at the sigil, focus on what it is you want. So not necessarily because you want the spirit to show up, but that's not the end result. The spirit is just a facilitator. What do you want that spirit to do? Visualize it as clearly as you can, gaze at the sigil, relax, let that visualization flow out of your eyes into the sigil. It's like the energy, the desire just passes into the sigil as you're gazing at it, and as you breathe in, exhale, and push that energy out. Start seeing the sigil flashing. Okay, cool. Get some incense burning, and then look, pull your vision from the sigil on top of the incense, and you're gonna overlay it where it's like your vision doesn't change. You still are relaxed. You're still in that theta gamma sync. Turn your attention to the smoke, and start imagining that you see a spirit there. Start imagining, like, if there is a spirit there, it'll probably just be in a human form because most spirits appear in human form. So just start maybe imagining that there's an outline of a human there, and then start asking yourself questions. What does it look like? What kind of clothes is he wearing? Your mind's going to start answering these questions and producing. It's actually nutty because it does produce an internal vision that like clicks in your head. You start seeing it very clearly, and at the same time, in the incense smoke, you start seeing like the incense starts to move around a body, and then you start seeing like an aura flashing there. Pretty quickly, once again, the internal and the external kind of merge, and there's a point where it doesn't matter if the spirit's in your head or if it's in front of you. That question is obliterated because you are just standing there with it in front of you. You're having a conversation. You're dealing with it. So, anyways, it all does come back to your ability to visualize what you want, to relax, and just let it flow. Stop obstructing your own energy.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty incredible. Thank you for that. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, being in your own way, biggest thing in the world, and being relaxed, you know. That's why I'm thinking about, you know, not thinking about, no, try, just do. I'm going to get some beads so I can do some mantras and always stay in that relaxed state, as well as, you know, meditation and all that. And that's what it means to be like within daily, like how much do you practice? It becomes a part of you. That makes sense, because to truly be embraced in that means to truly be embraced in it. It just takes knocking out all the BS, cutting the fat off all the bullshit in life, and really sticking to some good stuff. That's intense. That's awesome. I'm gonna definitely do that. I'm gonna get myself into more meditative and just let things flow. Even that, it can get too much for that. Looking at a sigil and then hope. Because too many people are just like, yeah, I'm hoping. Lots of people I've talked to that have done any of that, they're like, I really haven't found anything. But really, just getting in that state of just letting it be and go with the imagination. The imagination, it's a key.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what, people might not agree with me on this, but that's all right. Hope is fear's twin sister. It's like if you hope for something, I mean, like even if you think about it, the feeling of hope it's like a mask for the feeling of fear. I'm afraid this isn't going to happen, so I really hope it's going to happen. It's like the opposite of fear is certainty and peace. And so if you can just get that, where it's like, if you leave the ritual and you're hoping it's going to happen, then you got more work to do. Honestly, when I leave the ritual, whatever the ritual is, I'm not even thinking about the thing anymore. It's like every thought, every desire that I have for that outcome, it's gone. I exhausted it out of me. This is why like sex magic rituals are so powerful for people, because I mean, whether you've got a partner or you're doing the ritual through masturbation or whatever, by the end of it, you're like, oh, I'm done, tapping out, and then you're done, and you go up. But you should bring the same kind of intensity to all of your rituals, no matter what they are. Is you fully invest yourself in it. You have a moment of a peak. You have a moment of explosion. You release it. You release your energy. You release your desire. You release your intention, and then you don't even think about it, because you're like, oh well, obviously it's done. Obviously it's not. Obviously that's going to work. I started noticing my self-talk. I do rock climbing, and so I started, when I first started doing it, I noticed I'll be like 60 feet up on a cliff, and I've got ropes and all that, but 60 feet up on a cliff, and I start reaching for a handhold, and I go, oh, I don't got it, I'm gonna fall, and I fall. And the dude who was teaching me this, he's all, you call it every single time. He goes, you're predicting your own failure. You goes, stop that. Like, start predicting something else. So he goes, every time you're tempted to say, I'm gonna fall, say, I got this, and say, it's not a problem. He says, visualize the success and say it out loud. And so when people are like, oh, I really hope that this happens, it's probably not. I'm going to be honest with you. If you really hope that something's going to happen, it's probably not. If you're like, you know what, I'm so certain that this is going to happen, I'm not even going to bother mentioning it. Of course it's going to happen. That's when you get into the like crystal clear, perfect success. Is like, yeah, it's not even a problem. Like the example I gave you of having an eviction notice at my door and having to convert the anxiety into peace. By the time I was done with the meditation, it's like it wasn't even a problem. Like the fear of not being able to feed my daughter was gone, even though I didn't have any reason to not be afraid. I should have walked. I should have been like in knots until I found another job, but that. Through the meditation, I just converted it and hit peace. So yeah,
it's walking with alchemy. Yeah, you're an alchemist. You're a Jedi. Like that's that's hilarious. I actually go by, I'm the L The Alchemist. That's that character. So if you ever see me on your video hitting that stuff, that's me. Level. It's like I said, there was chaos that occurred, and last night I was like, this is great, because now I get to build a new foundation and implementing new practices. And the amount of like downloads that everyone's gonna have, dude, I'm telling you, this is so for the astral realm and hell, both of those, see, now I'm just seeing it as like, it's just there's different realms out there, and there's different places, and there's different beings that are there, and it's just them within their system, and there's just so many systems. Exactly, like you did the Norse, did that for a while, and I mean that's the coolest part. You can just pick something that resonates with you, and you did that from family tradition, and I don't know how you found that out about yourself.
Well, first off, so I was adopted, and when I was like, my birth mother gave me up for adoption when I was 6 months old, and right about that time. And I on my birth certificate, you know, she had named me Eric Koetting, and so I went through some terrible families and terrible situations as a youngster, and I was adopted into my permanent family when I was 4, and they changed my name. Like the authorities basically said, look, you need to change this child's name because he's in danger. So they changed my name, and then when I start writing, and it was actually when my ex-wife was pregnant with our daughter. Something just clicked in me where I was like, all right, whatever I need to do, like it was time to start doing it. Like my time of playing around in life is over. I've got to like start making shit happen. You know, it's just a shift of being a father, I guess. So so I start writing my first book and throw it out there under the magical name Archelus, and that was Kingdoms of Flame. And then it actually started hitting. People started liking it. I was actually blown away. I was like, oh, I thought that. First off, I didn't have that much faith in myself, you know, like most people don't. It's like, oh, you know, I'm creating the art I'm creating because that's what I want to create, and I'm always blown away when other people enjoy it. But then there was also the knowledge of like, I'm going to take this somewhere, and so I need to figure out how to become fully who I am. And that was basically re-embracing my birth self, re-embracing who I was, that I was born into this world as Eric Koetting. And I was like, all right. So I started using that name as my professional name, getting it out there. And that's actually, my birth mother found me through that, because I was told never use the name Koetting again. That name is the name that the bad people are going to come looking for you under. And I was like, all right. Well, at that point, I'm like 22, 23, and I'm like, yeah, let them come, motherfuckers. And so I started using that name. My birth mother, I guess, she would get online, especially as social media was popping off. She'd get online and search for me all the time, constantly. My entire life she's been searching for me, and I didn't even know that. Wow. And she finally finds me on Facebook, and she's like, oh man, I never thought you were going to use that name again. I'm like, I was told not to, but here's what it is. And she goes, yeah, well, what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, well, I'm an author, and here's some of the books I write. And I was kind of like waiting for her to be freaked out by it. And she's all, oh, that's not surprising. Like everybody in our family that happens to be writers, and you come from a long line of witches. I'm like, are you serious? Like, yeah. Your grandma was a witch, and she practiced voodoo, and this ancestor here. But then she starts sending me pictures of family, and I see this soldier standing there in his uniform with a Swiss flag, and I was like, "What's going on there?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's World War II. That's your grandpa. He was." I'm like, "Are you serious? Like Switzerland?" Huh? She's like, "Oh yeah, no, our family comes from Switzerland, Germany, and Norway are the 3 main places." I'm like, "Oh, that's badass." I'd always felt that pull to that, and so that was kind of a validation of that. Yeah, just dove into that whole system and rocked it. That's the thing, like that. It's like the principles, people are people, all right? So I haven't traveled the world as much as I would like, but I've traveled it enough that no matter where you go, no matter what language people are speaking, people are people, you know? I mean, the needs, the wants, the desires, the struggles, they're pretty much the same. So the spiritual aspect is pretty identical too, that even though you'll have different names for these entities, and some of them do seem like the same entities appearing in all these systems, but you have different names for them. You have different stories that are told. It's like the underlying principles first, the underlying principles of like ethics and morals are usually pretty similar, but then the actual practices, like once you break it down and get rid of the dogma, then the underlying like step 1, 2, and 3 of how to manifest a spirit is the same no matter what system you're working with. So all you have to do is like, what I've tried to do with my work is to look at all these systems, tear them apart, figure out what those steps of the ritual are that are actually useful, and then use those. And so yeah, it doesn't matter if you're investing yourself in Norse magic or voodoo or any of it. It's all basically it's a similar approach that you just have to adapt a little bit of details to. So yeah.
Just, yeah, to be able to match up with the spirits you're also working with, hitting that level. Who was your favorite with the Norse system? Which god?
At first it was Thor, for sure. It's just like that masculine, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and then it became Odin. I was like, all right, but by the end of it, after experiencing it all, like, absolutely it was Loki. Loki's the only one of the gods that's honest. So he would play all these tricks on all the other gods, right? And the tricks that he would play would always expose the gods for their weaknesses. So, for instance, he goes to Thor's wife. Thor's out of town. He's out. Really, first off, Thor hardly ever hangs out with his wife. He's got this wife, Sif. She's the most beautiful woman around. Her hair is made of gold. It's like a refined gold that's just hanging off of her head. Beautiful woman. Thor never hangs out with her. Like, she's always just hanging out in Asgard by herself. So Thor's out drinking with his buddies and doing whatever he's doing, beating people up. So Loki sneaks into his wife's house and shaves her head. He's like, yeah, Thor loves her hair. Everybody's always talking about how beautiful she is because of her hair. So he shaves her head. And she wakes up, obviously. It's like, oh shit, Loki did this. So they call him into basically a trial, and they're like, hey, you cut her hair. The conversation that goes on with all of the gods at that point is absurd, because they're like, she was so beautiful. Now you cut her hair and she's hideous. And Thor's like, how can I ever love her now? You took away my love. And it's like, oh man, who's the real bad guy here? Like, Loki cut her hair. You're an asshole. You're not gonna love your wife because she shaved her head. Are you serious? Like, I've been with my girlfriend for 7 years, and the different hairstyles, or 8 years now, the different hairstyles she's gone through. Like, dude, if I had that attitude, we would no longer be together. Like, that's ridiculous. Every single sin that Loki commits is a way of exposing the gods for their own faults. And this is actually the same with every devil of every religion is actually exposing that, to the point that, like, it gets so absurd, because you look at God, whatever god of whatever system, you look at the main creator gods, and none of them are good people. Like, you look at Jehovah, dude, that is evil. Like, you look at some of the stuff that's been done, that is evil. And it's easy to say, oh, that's just hypocrisy, right? The gods are hypocritical. Well, I think it even goes further than that. The whatever scripture of these religions and the stories that are told, they're inspired. And so it's not like we accidentally can see that these gods are not good beings. We're seeing that on purpose. That's part of what these scriptures are trying to teach us. These gods, that they have super abilities and they've got powers, and they demand, respect, I guess, but they shouldn't be worshipped because they're not good people. Like, the scriptures are very clear. They're saying it without saying it. It's like woven into there. Here are these beings that you can look at and you can learn from, but don't worship them because they're not worth your worship. They're not worthy of it. And when you start kind of looking at all the scriptures that way, it actually kind of changes everything. It's like, wait a minute, it's not like there's only a few of us that are smart enough to see it. It's like obvious, black and white. God is bad. And then once you have that perspective, okay, well, I can look at people in my life, my mentors, people that I look up to, that have some serious flaws, that I'm like, oh man, that is a flawed individual. But you know what? I learned so much from them. That's how we should be seeing these gods. They are flawed as fuck, but they've got some stuff to teach us, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing with a lot of people. You can learn many things from different people. I mean, it could be something that they're really loud and obnoxious, and learning, let's not do that unless you're waiting in line and you want to feel that experience getting coffee. Yo, bro. But yeah, that's it's working with instead of working for, and that's the whole thing with worship. I need to not be so divided into, I have to worship this being, into you're working with, and you're just being, it's like a god amongst the god, and whatever system you go to, whatever you do, being respectful. And I mean, that's the biggest thing for me is I feel comfortable going, doing this, that, and the other, because I'm not trying to be at a skewed, I'm just a character. Like, I'm just going through on my mission, and if you can help me out, then awesome. And I'm going to be grateful and everything else. And that's where that genuine comes from. Like when you do prayers, like that's one thing that sometimes trips me up is, doing a prayer with people, everyone that's Christian, because when I do it, I can get so deep with things, but then saying Jesus Christ's name, amen. That to me, I'm like, well, that's just taking away power with that. But then could that be too skilled to be like, I just work with everyone and it doesn't even matter? I think that's more of the way to go.
So with working with Abaddon, like I said, I've been diving into like personal self-discipline and spiritual discipline like no other. And at the same time, one of the challenges that's been laid out is what you're perceiving is not real. Okay, so as I'm dealing with Abaddon, I've got the essence of Kali and this infinite blackness that just descends into the temple, and I'll even have like the visual and the auditory. I'll hear things. I'll get direct messages that I'll sit and write in my journal. And at the same time, I'm being told none of this is real. It's happening. It is happening. You're perceiving reality. The way you're perceiving reality is just a sliver. So don't get too attached to how you're perceiving it. You're perceiving it as being Kali. You're perceiving it as being this dark, vengeful goddess. That's a sliver. So don't assume it's real. Assume it's real enough to pay attention to. The message you're getting is real. The teaching you're getting is real. The power is real. But the conclusions that you're drawing are not. The conclusions that you draw from that's your human brain trying to work with something that is far beyond what the human brain was. I mean, I firmly believe that our evolution as a human species is not accidental. I mean, there's a reason that we're the only species that evolved to this point of our, specifically our neocortex, our brain has evolved to a point in a short period of time, in like almost instantaneous fucking evolution of our brain, that we can handle information, but we still got like the genetic we're descendants of pack hunting apes. Really we've got a we're still learning how to work with this vehicle of the human body and the human brain. And so our brains, when we receive a lot of this information, it can't handle a lot of it, and it has to pick through the experiences and make sense of it somehow. And it's really, really hard to do that. So what's happening, what you think is happening, is probably not what's really happening. It's beneficial to you. It's interesting to look into and to challenge your mind to really try to grasp it. But so let's say when you're saying a prayer, you go and you're saying in the name of Jesus Christ or your Father in heaven, throw yourself into it. Like there is that, especially where you've come from that, and it's been not the most positive experience. It's like you want to draw a line and say, well, no. Well, I'll tell you what, dive into it and just as an experiment, see how much you can get yourself to believe it. Like, see how much you can get yourself to fully invest yourself in something that you know is bullshit. Saying bullshit might be a little harsh, but see if you can invest yourself in something that you don't believe in, and see if you can get yourself to believe in it, and see what happens with that. So I do all these path workings. So when I hit the Norse path working, for instance, I fully dive into it, and if I needed something, I would not call on any demons. I would call on different Norse deities for that entire year. If my entire mind was engaged with working with the runes and working with runic magic and all of that. And it's like you take this shift, you fully invest yourself in the system you're working with as if it is 100% true. Then when you pull yourself out of that, that's the interesting part, is because you come back to yourself and you gotta go, oh yeah, wait a minute. That's all just mythology. That's all just like fantasy, but I've used it in this really unique way in order to make these really unique changes. and it works. So the end result is real. The product of it's real. The experience you had is real. Your interpretation with it is flawed. And so yeah, so when you're jump into a prayer and I mean, invest yourself to the point that you can feel Jesus there. I'll tell you what, I have had some experiences with Jesus in doing exactly that, and just like throwing myself into it and manifesting Jesus in front of me to the point that you can feel his body, you can reach out and touch him. And that doesn't mean that I'm worshiping Jesus. That doesn't mean his thing. It doesn't mean anything. Like we're trying to attribute all these meaning to everything. Nothing has meaning. Like it's all just how you interpret it. And once again, your interpretation is flawed. So you kind of have to dive into the experience, but at the same time, and dive into the experience and take it completely seriously. Like throw yourself into it with everything you have. But at the same time, there's that part of yourself that goes, this is probably all bullshit. So if you can kind of walk that line, it's really that's a balance beam that can be hard for a lot of people. But that's I mean that is I think the most authentic way to approach it is just going, throw yourself into it, knowing that it's not literally true, knowing that it's probably just silliness, and see how far you can stretch that silliness, and see what you can experience with that.
Yeah, that's the whole doing like a year and how you do a couple months with each gate work. God dang, dude! Every time I say that, gatekeeper, I swear, dude, I swear. But you're really like filling yourself all to that and just growing with that. And I like how when you work with different spirits, sometimes there's like the spider web of like, for instance, Salos 19th of the Goetia, like a crocodile getting thrown up on the screen or something like that, and or like seeing a Duke crown, like so, like me thinking, and all of a sudden there's someone doing that right there. But yeah, just like small little things that are like a spiderweb effect to be able to bring it to life. But then you can pull back and be like, no, I just made that up inside of my head. It's all bullshit. But it is all about you being the interpreter and being able to put meaning behind something, but they're not being so attached. And that's the biggest thing, not being so attached, is going in and working and then hopping out and being, okay, that was a cool experience. Be able to use that with your daily walk.
Yeah, and like what we're paying attention to. This is something I picked up from Mark Passio. He's awesome. He's pretty cynical about Satanism and about the occult and whatever. He does see a lot of the negative in it, but he also has some really, really good points. One of the things he pointed out in this lecture, like this whole lecture seemed to be about this, is spiritual currency. So a lot of people will have this idea that you call on these spirits and you've got to sacrifice something to them, or you've got to do a favor for them. If you want them to do a favor for you, you've got to do a favor for them. And so there's a lot of these people that have this idea of the exchange between spirits. He says that the only spiritual currency that exists is time and attention. So whatever you pay attention to, whatever you spend your time on, that's what's going to manifest. So, like I look at this, the room I'm in, and I'm like, all right, so I've got, I love the color blue. Does anybody else love the color blue? Look around and see if you can see blue anywhere. All right, cool. Blue is so awesome. Blue, 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 blue. Let's see, see if you can see any green. And people all of a sudden, they have a hard time switching from the blue to green. They're like, they start looking around, all they see is blue. They're like, where's the fucking green, man? There's no green in here. Like, well, there is. It's just your mind is focused on blue. And so when we're dealing with, like, let's say spirits, right? You get the sigil out, you charge it up, you're thinking about Salos, and all of a sudden, the alligator was already on the screen. The Duke crown was already going to be there. You just would have ignored it. It just wouldn't have been important to you. It's like all of a sudden you start seeing it. So the crazy thing is, the thing that makes this all go beyond just the mind, because if we just stop there, then we can say, well, that's just the mind. Okay, cool. This is like a form of like self-motivation. All right, I can see that. But what's nutty is that as you start paying attention to these things, they increase. So people that play, I always see people all the time that play with EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. They'll go get the recorders and they'll go out to a cemetery and they'll start recording just like static, right? Then they take it home and they start listening to it. And at first they'll go, oh, I heard a little voice saying this, and they'll have little clips of it. Almost every single time, like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 sessions into it, they start getting some nutty stuff. All of a sudden, there's entities that are shouting at them through the static, and it increases as you pay more and more attention to it. In this temple here, the nutty stuff that can happen here is pretty off the wall, because this is the place that I always go to do my magic. This is where I go, that I enter the room and I know I'm in a magical place. Spirits manifest in this room. And so that creates like a matrix of that possibility right here. It's like especially when you do something at the same time in the same place, you're setting up a likelihood that that's going to happen. It's like when I write, I'll try to write in the same place and at the same time every day. So that way, as I sit down, it's like my mind just clicks on. It's the inspiration knows where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be there, and is ready to find me. So yeah.
Hey, that's really training. I mean, that's like getting down to that rhythm again. Getting in that sync with knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried the gym in the morning and gym at night. Trying to fit it in, because you gotta keep that going. But then I like to do my writings and all that. But I'll tell you what, it's pretty for how the world is, and being able to use all your creative time. That's another big thing, and that's what I'm off to do by a couple of years, being all buy my own stuff, go do traveling, and then do all your writing and all that stuff. That's some cool shit.
Yeah. Just real quick about part of that is to find other people to help you out, especially just on the raw business end of things. If you're a creative person, you're probably not an organized person. Maybe you are, but most of the time you don't. Most of the time you have that split. Most creative people aren't very good with selling. They're not very good salesmen. They don't like to brag about their creativity. They're just being creative, right? And so you find somebody else that can help you with that. You find somebody to handle your I've got an accountant that handles my money, because I don't like to think about money. Honestly, it's not something that interests me. It's not something that motivates me. So I have a guy that does all that. I don't think about it. I just create. Paimon, I did a evocation of King Paimon like 2 years ago, and just general hey, help me boost my financial life. And he's like, all right, cool. And he gave me some very specific this, and this, and this. And one of those points he said every day when you wake up, decide what you're going to create. Just, what am I going to create today? Don't think about what do I have to do? What are my tasks? But what am I going to create? He goes, and if you do that every day, you're going to have all power to create anything that you want. It's like, oh, that's badass. But you need to get up every day and go, okay, what am I creating today? And then it changes the whole way you approach your whatever it is you're doing. And you do. It is nutty that when you actually set your mind on it, I'm going to do this. It's nutty how it just flows forward and just sets itself up for you.
That's now that's making me have some perception on, because the first spirit that ever showed any manifestation was King Paimon. It was just all in the dark pitch black, and I had my eyes shut. I couldn't have incense or anything, and I just was saying his name, just to be able to help out, exactly getting myself on a better track to more success. And then all of a sudden, I end up opening up one of my eyes, and I saw 2 red eyes right there, up in the corner of my room. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm just going to keep going here. And I could feel different. And after I did the thanking and then said, thank you for everything, I couldn't hear anything. But the next 3 weeks, nailing on my window constantly, constant clicks. And I was just like, all right, I got to clean it up. And that's awesome. There's a recognition that everything's good to go. And I appreciate it, that remembrance. And I mean, that's the thing about poltergeist activity. You could potentially be very uncomfortable with it, but you're totally all right with it. It's just a product of that energy,
And I mean, and honestly, sometimes it gets unnerving. It does. Like, and I've been dealing with it forever. But it does. I mean, it's startling almost every time. Like, it's like my brain forgets about it, and so all of a sudden, when a door opens and closes all by itself, it's like, oh shit, what the hell's going on there? It does mess with me a bit when I'm home alone, for sure. I mean, I live out in the middle of nowhere, so if my girlfriend's at work and I start having crazy shit happen, I'm like, oh man, I hope you have an early day, babe. I want to be here, because it does get a little nuts sometimes. But you know, one of a couple things that I've had to learn with that is it is just a spirit that's trying to get attention. It's like once again, time and attention are the two things that they want. So I'll give it enough attention for it to kind of calm down, but at the same time, I almost treat it like a kid. I'll be like, all right, I know you're there, and I'm seeing what you're doing. That's really cool. You're really powerful, but knock that shit off. And you know, with that kind of attitude, acknowledging it, you know, ignoring it never helps anything. Like you have to acknowledge it, but then kind of marginalize it. Acknowledge it and go, but it's not that scary. It's not that important. One of the things one of the, you know, little pieces of advice I gave my daughter as she started dealing with all of this is to laugh at it. See if you can laugh at it. Like if something's scaring you and it's not something that you want to engage with, your fear is just going to feed it. Your fear is going to feed it like a monster. So you've got to get yourself to the opposite point of fear, which is you know, peace. If you can get to peace, but often that's a hard shift to make. But if you can get yourself to laugh at that spirit, then you know, it's like you see with my daughter. You know, for instance, she's like, oh yeah, there's this. She was seeing somebody around the house that was like a woman in a dress, and I'm like, oh, what's the dress look like? And she's like, oh, it's like blue, and I'm like, make fun of her dress. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Find like, look at her dress, be like, who wears a dress like that anymore? All right, hey, Annie M. You know, and then it's like you just have these little things that you can interact with it in a way that makes it a lot less of an issue. But it's a normal part of life. I mean, like you get especially when you're dealing with all of this. A lot of people will get hold of me and they're like, all right, so I want to do all these rituals and I want to do all this. But I want to make sure that, you know, I don't have any like poltergeist stuff happen around the house. I'm like, up. I'm like, either you open the gateway or you don't. Like, you know, you can manage it. You can manage the poltergeist activity through, you know, banishings and stuff. But it's you're asking for the power to come into your life. You got to let it into your life.
So if someone did it like I did all my stuff in the forest because I couldn't do it at the household I was at, you know. And I mean, my car, yeah, that's all right, but like a part of it's like, should I be doing it in the car? But shoot, that's a hidden temple. Do you still see its effect, or would it be more effective if you had it like, you know, like inside of your own room or something like that? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah. So if you're doing the magic first off, doing it in the same place is powerful because it's like that place wears thin the veil between the worlds the more you do things in that same place over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And so that's if you do it in the same place, that's great. If you do it in the room that you live in, that you sleep in, that can be good. That can be really good because you're immersing yourself in that energy. You're always, you know, you're sleeping in it, and so your dreams are going to start to take form as far as you have spirits manifesting in your dreams or answers to things that you needed. The big problem I saw with doing it in my bedroom is that I don't really sleep alone. You know, I've usually got my girlfriend with me, or, you know, prior to that, you know, different girls I was seeing, and prior to that, my wife. And people, the powers that I work with, I think, are a bit more intense than most people are wanting to deal with. So like, and especially with women, that there's a heightened receptivity. I think women seem to have a better intuitive feel for things, and so they'll kind of pick up on spirits being in the area or energy shifts and stuff a bit easier than most men will. And there have been cases where women that have been staying the night have felt like they're being sexually I don't know, molested or violated or whatever by the energies that are in there. So
Yeah.
So there is kind of a crossover where it's like, well, at some point, if it's just me, but honestly, if it was just me, I don't think I'd have a house at all. I'd be like a wandering fucking shaman or something. But,
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, it's so for that reason, like doing it in your room can be good, but it can also have some drawbacks. One of the things that's intense is in whatever area you're working your magic in, it's the air starts to get really thick and the light starts to get kind of dim. And so it's like, no matter how many light bulbs you have on in the room, you'll walk in there and it'll look dark as fuck. People will be like, turn on the light. You're like, light's on, like everything on the window's open. Like the energy gets thick, and then it'll feel like you're walking through spider webs. When you get to that point that you walk in the room and it feels like you're walking through spider webs, I love it because that's like a catalyst for the energy. So like whatever energy you raise up and put out, it's like that intensifies it. It is definitely a catalyst. But once again, that's great for me. It might not be great for other people that wander through.
Yeah.
But I do like having a separate area for that I do it in. If you're able to do that, that's good. I also have an indoor and an outdoor area. So I've got a space like just that way a bit in my backyard, but I've got a circle of branches that I'll give you outdoor rituals in. And I've got like multiple locations that are a further distance out that I'll go to. And so, yeah, it's and a lot of that's based on what the ritual is, what I'm calling. I don't call angels in this temple, but I'll go out and in my garden and do that, and so, just kind of adapt it all. We've got in our minds like if you think about like where an angel like Raphael, where would you see him at? And if you can get that like whatever location he might be at, like I would see him being in somewhere that's alive, that has like plants growing and green stuff and is beautiful. That's where I'm going to want to go summon him at. If I'm like, well, where are the demons going to show up? They're going to show up in somewhere that's dark, that's probably got rusted ass metal in the background, whatever. That's the environment that I'm going to create. And that's got more to do with me than it does the spirit. Some people are like, oh, the spirit's more comfortable coming into that area. I don't know that has anything to do with it. I don't think the spirit gives a fuck. I think that's all on us. That's setting our minds up to be able to lock onto that energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's getting more attuned. Exactly. So that you're feeling that energy coming in. And that's what diet, that's been something else that I've been hinting at. All the extra crap. And that's the thing. I love caffeine. I love it. But I wanted to see what it'd be like, on baseline. That's why I've been trying to cut out all these substances. And I'm also trying to, I don't know why I keep using the word trying. I am making. There we go. I'll go practice learn. But just being able to, it's going to be a me losing weight video as well as overcoming these addictions. And so all these other events that have happened that have been a little catastrophic, I'm like, that's okay because you can create from all that. And exactly what King Paimon said, continue to create. With all the things that go on, whether it be emotional or physical, you can always just channel that into what you're doing. And that's a really great creative way to get about things, and actually make that change into reality. I sometimes do feel I want to have so much control because there's so much like about all this knowledge and everything else. You are becoming more in control of yourself and making these steps and getting that. But then I guess the problem is I'm trying to have control. I just have to have control. That's
and I'll tell you what, there's a matter of like defining that. So you gotta ask yourself, like, what does control look like? Like once you have the control you're looking for, if you were to take a snapshot of that moment, what would that be? Now, if you can find that, you can achieve it. So for instance, you said weight loss, right? So you've got a specific idea of what your body should look and feel like, right? So if you take that, if you're able to see it, visualize it. I did this. I did this exercise that for about a year, and I wouldn't do it every day, but throughout the year, I would. Sometimes I would do it like for a couple weeks every day. Sometimes I would do it. I would go like a month and then do it once, whenever I felt like I needed it. But usually it'd be right after I get out of the shower. I have a full-length mirror, so I'd drop my towel and just stand in front of this mirror, look at myself, and go, okay, well, here's the things I don't like about myself. Here's where I want to be. Here's where I am now. And I would focus on where I wanted to be, what I wanted my physique to look like. And mind you, I was working out 5 days a week because my diet really has not changed that much in the last couple of years. But I would see the reality that I'd want, and I would overlay it onto what I'm seeing in the mirror until it's really nutty, because the same flashing that happens with your sigil starts happening in the mirror. That my image in the mirror starts to kind of change and shift. I start to look a bit different. I start to feel a bit different. And then just doing that for a few minutes, I'd start to feel like different parts of my body just like tightening, and muscles start to flex where it's like I'm not putting any effort into it. And then I start seeing my body starts to shift. Over that year, and this wasn't necessarily my intention, but it did help. Over that year, I got a little bit taller, like measurably. We had a spot in our last house that if we'd have friends over, we'd mark their height on the wall, like you do with kids. It was just like a fun thing we'd do. So we had this wall that had a bunch of marks all over it of how tall everybody was. So a year after I started this whole thing, I stand up on the wall, and it was like a good it wasn't a full inch, but it was less than a half an inch, but it was right around there. Like, to grow a half an inch when you're like 35 years old out of nowhere is nuts. Also, my shoulder width expanded. Like, once again, my ritual or my workout wasn't changing at all. My diet wasn't changing at all. My bone structure started to shift just because I'm because I'm visualizing. Now, I would take that visualization that I was doing in the mirror, and I would also do it while I was working out. So while I was in that peak state, because working out is, I can't stress how important it is to get that exercise and to get your body working on that high level, and then focus on what you're thinking. When you're starting to drip in sweat, like running is a good one, because you can get really high off your own body chemistry while you're running. Mm-hmm. So when you start reaching that point that it's like, whoo, start focusing on the change that you want to make in yourself. Start visualizing it as if it's real. Start feeling it in your body. Start sending like your body chemistry, the chemistry that's flooding down from your brain through your body. Start seeing that as being spirits. You're releasing spirits into your bloodstream. You're telling these spirits what to do. Dude, it can be so powerful.
You know, it's so funny you said that, because when I've been running recently, I've been pushing like the full-blown sprint for 12 minutes. And like, there's obviously a point where I'm not going nearly as fast as I was at the beginning, but just keep going. And this ecstasy I feel, because I'm like, oh my gosh, look what I'm doing. There's nothing that's going to stop me. And I just feel like a beast. Like, I love Dragon Ball Z because of the idea that you're not going to stop and like just keep going. And like, if it didn't kill you, then you're going to be that much stronger. So like when I'm like running and all that, I'm like, even if I collapsed and died right now, I'm going so hard, and like just that mental push right there. So I guess even now adding, even that more visualization. I mean, the fact that you said that, especially at that moment, and that's been going on in my head, is very synchronistic. And that's awesome. That's really awesome stuff. Yeah. Okay, I got one about, okay, now I know about aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them, people will say they're evil, some say they're good. Then there's like literally like 15 different types of alien breeds in our governments with. And interdimensional beings, I mean, I think that might be the better word to call them. And then some could say are demons, this, that, and the other. But yeah, what's your take on aliens? And I mean, the reptilian, for instance, like that whole situation, like.
Yeah. Well, so, I'll tell you what, there's some nutty things with that, because, man, just a few years ago, it would have been really easy to be like, oh, that's just like conspiracy theories, right? But now our government's come out saying that they have been tracking UFOs. They've got different videos that have been released by To the Stars Academy that has released these military videos of military aircraft chasing down UFOs and seeing some of the crazy things they do. One of them, it's flying. I mean, it is going so fast. These pilots, these are trained Air Force pilots or Navy pilots. They're chasing this UFO and they're like, "Oh my God, look how fast it's going." First off, if a trained Navy pilot says, "Look how fast it's going," and he's blown away, that's like,
Yeah.
because we got some of the fastest planes out there. So these guys are like, "Oh, look how fast it's going." This aircraft does a straight like rotation in the middle of its flight, like just as it's going crazy speeds. All of a sudden, it's all, and you can see it on their sensors. There have been multiple videos released by our government that are like semi-disclosure videos, right? So this stuff is not only happening; it's being studied by our governments. They're starting to come out with it. You got, what's his name, Hellier. He was like the Canadian defense minister or something that came out and he's like, "Yeah, we're currently working with like 11 different races." It's like, what the fuck? So something's happening now. What it is that's happening, the people who know, and there are people out there who have been public about it that do know something, and what they say to the public is they're like, it's not what you expect it to be. You expect it to be aliens from another planet. That is not what's going on here. One of the things that, I love folks like Alex Jones, because he spits out some of the craziest shit, and it's like, oh man, what? But it's fun to like let my mind kind of go on that journey and go, okay, what if this is true? So this morning I'm listening to him on Joe Rogan's podcast. Oh, dude, Joe Rogan is knocking it out of the park. I love that dude's stuff. So he's talking to Alex Jones, and Alex goes, there's a facility where our government has people taking these massive doses of DMT so they can go into these other realms and negotiate terms with these other worldly beings, these off-world or interdimensional beings. And so we're in active negotiations with interdimensional beings. That's pretty badass. If that's true, that is badass. I would like to know what they're trying to negotiate. I'd like to know what kind of bargaining chips our government is using to make those negotiations. I fear that it probably is like at the risk of the American people or the rest of the world population or something. I don't know, but anyway, so reptilians, right? So when we look at all of this, it's not like none of this is new. Then one of the first things I started looking into aliens, UFOs, and all that when I was like 12, 13 years old. There was a show on called Sightings, and they would just kind of pique my imagination. Go, here's some interesting UFO stuff that happened, and so they put out a theory out there that I thought was pretty cool. That when we started doing nuclear testing, that the shock wave from the atom bomb carries beyond our atmosphere, and so that basically carries through space. So there's these other aliens out there. They're just taking their ship on a cruise, and they're like, "Oh, look at this! These guys have nuclear technology from this planet over here. Let's go check it out." So that was actually like a signal beacon that started drawing them massively to our planet. That could be true, but then again, if you look back through history, these beings are talked about over and over and over and over again throughout every mythology. You've got reptilian beings that are often called, the demons and the devils and stuff like that. They're the bad guys. You've got these elf beings that are like the, today we're calling them greys, whatever, the elves and fairies, and then you've got these Nordic dudes that are have appeared in many, many world religions. These tall, usually blonde Nordic creatures with big eyes that are usually pretty beneficial and have appeared as spiritual masters. So you got all these races that seem to have had something to do with us from the beginning. And it's like, I don't know what it means. I mean, I don't even know how real it is. Once again, I've got to look at it and go, okay, so the experience is real. That's the crazy part is like, I have talked and had one-on-one, personal, in-depth conversations with a lot of people who have been abducted, and they're not lying. Like, they're not making shit up. Whatever they experience. Like, there is no doubt about that. I don't know what that is that they're experiencing, and neither do they. Now, when you look at any abduction scenario, you start talking to the person. At first, it's like, okay, I saw a light in the sky, and you know, then there was an owl by my window that night, and then that's it. And then they start probing a little deeper. Well, actually, at first I thought it was an owl, but then it turned into like a gray alien. And I was in my bed, but at the same time, I was on their ship. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Now you're not talking about being abducted. You're talking about bilocation. You're talking that you astral projected, or you're pulled out of your astral body into another dimension. That changes the story altogether. You start adding these layers onto it, and it's like something's going on here that can't be explained. Like not only is it like we don't know what's going on, we don't even have the vocabulary to be able to talk about it. And so yeah, we're just barely starting to treat this subject with any seriousness. So yeah, I do think that it gets way out into a point that's hard to follow when it gets into how intensely our government is involved in it. You know, that's the part that I really question, because you know, it's like people are all convinced that Hillary Clinton and the Clintons are they're shapeshifters and whatever. I have a hard time with that. Like I really do. Hillary Clinton's a bright person. She's intelligent, but she ain't no goddamn shapeshifter. I mean, if she is, I'm happy to be surprised. You know, if that turns out to be the case, that's cool. But I strongly doubt it. I think most people in government positions are just people in government positions. They're trying to help the world. They're trying to do the best they can. They're trying to grab some power. Most of it's not that deep. But then you do have different factions of governments, what I call the underground world empire. Mm-hmm. So all the wars that go on, dude. It's all like it's all a game. I mean, none of it's real. Like you know, you look at war is so silly, because it's like we give these people a bunch of guns and ammunition and bombs, and then we're surprised when 5 years later they're shooting us and blowing us up. It's like, wait, we gave them that, we taught them how to use it, we told them to use it, and then they used it. And it's like we're setting ourselves up intentionally to cause division. Why? I'm not really sure. The alien question is that adds another layer of like, well, they're trying to colonize our planet. That's some scary shit right there. Like if they're trying to colonize our planet, that makes me, well, first off, I don't know what kind of chance we've got of resistance, you know, and I would like to think that's not the case. I certainly hope not.
And that's where it comes down to disclosure, you know, being able to push that and all of us hitting on that same level so everyone knows, because there is an underground empire, you know, that's the thing that people laugh at, but it's exactly, were they trying to hold us back from this communications, or the people, you know, at the DMT trips making these big old deals about all of us, and it's about really unveiling that. And I'm doing all, and I guess I will know more. I will be able to do when the time comes. I guess that's for myself. That's the way I feel about it. You know, it's all about personal development. And once you hit certain levels, you can do certain things. And plus, I mean, at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. You know, you got to enjoy the experience here, you know, having a good time with all that. And, I don't know, just being able to see it. I guess it's great to have this perception in the first place, though, instead of just feeling like I'm a zombie. I mean, I guess some people don't mind seeing that, but seeing between the cracks, you know, and being able to see that light to go jump into it, man.
Well, and here's something to consider, and this is something that, you know, once again, I'm going to throw this name out there, is To the Stars Academy. I mean, it might be, this is Tom DeLonge's organization, you know, former Blink 182 dude. And he's not the most articulate fellow out there. They should not have him going out and doing interviews, that's for sure, because he is not very good at putting his words together in a way that is compelling. But anyways, this To the Stars Academy is starting to really dig into the question from a corporate view, because the government is very, very bound in what they can do, because the government's job is to be and this isn't the job we've given them, this is the job they've taken over on their own accord, is to be our parents. You know, they're the ones to tell us what the rules are. They're the ones to spank us when we're bad. Now, as the parents, they can't come to us and be like, hey, there's some shit going on. It might destroy our entire civilization. We don't know what it is, and we don't know how to fix it. Like, they can't tell us that. That's panic in the streets. All of their power will be gone, and we would all be going, well, who are the? We're gonna go talk to these aliens then, because you're useless. They have no motivation to tell us the full truth of what's going on. The government does. It wouldn't be beneficial to them. It probably wouldn't be beneficial to the population. If there is something dark like that going on, I can definitely see why they would want to keep that under wraps until they get more information. But with that being said, there's a huge power that now exists that did never exist before, of crowdsourcing. All right, so it's like you mentioned my forum earlier. That's a good example of crowdsourcing. So it's like, I've got these experiences. I'm going to bring them, put out a video about them, tell people about them, and that's cool. What's really cool is when you get a couple thousand people, they're all having the same experience, to get together and say, oh, here's what happened to me. Here's what I'm doing. You guys want to jump together and start doing some wealth rituals so we can help each other? You start getting groups of people that are all working on the same problems together. It is massive. You know, there's a experiment that was done where they started building some sort of, and I don't understand science, but they were looking for a cancer treatment. And so they give these students, these college students, this video game. And in this video game was the problem that these scientists are trying to solve. And they're like, all right, let's see if these kids can solve it. All these kids are playing this video game, and they start solving a problem that mathematicians and scientists have been struggling for years to get. These kids are solving it because they're all working together, putting little tiny pieces of the puzzle together, and they solved it. And they're leading towards cures, like literal cures for cancer. They say they're going to have in a year. So with that, it's like, wow. But it's not because there's like a powerful government that has a few people that are doing a lot of work. It's a little bit of work being done by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. So I think that's where our government could probably, I mean, like really, if the government came out and like they did some kind of press release and like, hey, so there are these beings from another dimension. We don't know why they're here. We don't know what they want. We don't know how to beat them, but we need your help. So here's some of the symbols they gave us. Here's some of the words that we've heard them use. See what you can do with this, and go to this forum. Oh, dude, I would be all over that shit. I would definitely be playing with that to see what's up. And so would a lot of people. And so I think that's possibly, you know, one way of finding a solution or getting more information is to trust people. But that's not what our governments do. They don't have trust in us because they can't be trusted. You know, it's like it's kind of a give and take. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's hard to nail down the whole alien thing. One thing is like there are a couple of spots here, like within an hour's drive from where I'm at right now, that UFOs are always popping off. People will go out there, just go for a drive or go to a bonfire out in the middle of nowhere. But the specific locations that every time people are out there, they're like, oh, dude, I saw some lights in the sky that were nutty and whatever, full on a craft, whatever. And I've had friends that are like, hey, let's go out there and see if we can see some of this. And I'm like, nah, I don't know. That opens up a whole other world of something that I've got to try to figure out. Because I'm not the kind of person that I'll just sit back and go, oh, that was a cool experience. Like, I'm going to try to figure it out. Which means at some point I'm going to end up aboard the mothership. Now that's intense. That's I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. You have your own pathworkings that you do and you go with, and you know, maybe the alien pathworking are next.
Right? Oh, maybe someday. Well, and the thing is like I don't think that these things are so different. Like the work that I'm doing, I think is, so you look at Skinwalker Ranch up in northern Utah. Mm-hmm. And that place has had alien activity, Bigfoot activity, poltergeist, every like supernatural thing you can think of is all happening in this one ranch. So that means that there is some sort of crossover. It's different manifestations of the same phenomena. So for that reason alone, it is a really interesting thing to look into. One of the things with the alien thing, though, is that there's so many assumptions that have been made about what these things are that it makes it impossible to jump in and really find answers. You know, because if you really want to find an answer, you kind of have to go into it with the ability to accept whatever information comes and use that. But if you go into it going, okay, so what planet are you from? They'll tell you what planet they're from, and they could just be feeding you a line of bullshit. You've got to be very open about how you ask the questions you ask. You know, once again, it's looking for green or looking for blue. Like what you're paying attention to is what you're going to get. So you do have to be careful with how you go about that.
Yeah, especially the whole abduction thing. I mean, I'm pretty good on that. I like when I need to sleep, dude. I'm gonna chill out for a little bit. Hey, I'll ask you one more, and then I'll call it. I appreciate again you getting on here, man. This has been phenomenal, like without a doubt.
I'll tell you what, like yeah. Hit me up with one more question, and then over the next little bit, as you start, like you said, you got a lot of downloads. As you start getting all that done, come up with another list, and we'll jump back on, dude.
Okay, dude. Oh man, here we go, man. The journey's begun. So for giants, you know, I look into ancient Egypt and Kemet, and they always, honestly, all across the world. That's the most fascinating thing is there's just these giants all over the wall. Some of them have 4 fingers, 6 toes, and it's these same things. And some say they're evil, some say they're good, and some say they're frozen underneath Antarctica. Not saying that's not the case, but I don't really know what's going on there. But yeah, what's your thought on the giants?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Well, so first off, everything that exists in every single mythology out there, it does exist in a astral form or a psychic form or something. You can go to the astral plane and find unicorns. You can go there and find dragons and all that shit. Now, but that's not what you're asking, because you're talking about physical beings, physical remnants and stuff like that. That's so that's hard. That is hard because there. First off, there have been so many hoaxes that have been out there, and then I've got to ask myself: are the hoaxes like disinformation? Is the hoax like that a hoax is put out there in order for everybody to go, oh, those are just hoaxes? Maybe, but having not seen the remains of a giant myself, that's hard to say. But it does seem like not seem like, but it seems almost obvious that we are not the first. We're not the first intelligent form to be here. You know, you look at Egypt and Samaria. They appear out of nowhere, like out of nowhere. Boom! All of a sudden, there's a civilization that has writing. Dude, I was reading yesterday as I'm finishing up the last bits of this book of Abaddon. I start reading Sumerian cuneiforms to try to find the last little pieces of information. Sumerian is a complicated language. That is a very complicated language. The written form, the spoken form. I was struggling with it, and I've learned a few different languages, and I'm like, wow, this is hard. There's a lot of different syntax that. And then I start thinking, well, these supposedly the story they want us to believe is that people were like throwing spears at elephants trying to hunt, and the next thing you know, they're creating these complex languages, religious systems, agriculture. I have a hard time buying that, and so do most other people who really give it some serious thought. So those remains of different beings, especially like if you're looking at giants and stuff, I mean that seems like that would have to be from another civilization. And not necessarily another human civilization, but maybe another civilization that came here from somewhere else. I don't know. I have seen every now and again I'll get these like really nutty flashes into the future. I'll think about something like I'll think about a possibility of something, and I'll see a flash. And sometimes that flash is like maybe a couple of days away, and I see it develop. Sometimes that flash is way down the line. So I started thinking, and this was a while ago, I was like, I wonder what as we evolve into becoming an intergalactic species, that the human race is on multiple planets, and we're spending a lot of time on ships, and we're adapting to a lot of different environments. How's that going to change the human being? And I get this flash in my head of giants, like the human being becomes a much larger being. That right now we're in these pretty small bodies in comparison to perhaps how we're going to evolve on another planet. Probably a planet with like less gravity, I imagine, would make you bigger. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not. But it was a flash that I had that I'm like, oh, okay. So that's interesting, because if that's what we're becoming, it's interesting to see that that's maybe where we came from, and that it's a cyclical type of thing, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was kind of thinking. It's all just like this, like the ancient ones are in control, and then the new gods come in, and then the ancient, and it's very like that. And I don't know, this is kind of another question. So was eventually you just get to that point where you can just kind of be like Obi-Wan Kenobi and just zap away when you want to exit the system?
That's such an excellent question. I've got a few different things that I would like to master before this life is over, and I got a lot of work to do. One of them is to be able to do exactly that, to be able to take my tobacco pipe here and make it just blip out of existence, just fold it into a pocket of reality, and it just goes away. And that's here's the problem with that, is like I would have to have an actual reason to need that to happen. I was meditating one time. I was on a bus on my way up to Wisconsin, and we're going over the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and I'm just looking at everything, going, oh, it's so beautiful. And I start getting into this meditation, and I unite with what you call Source. And with that union with Source, I'm like, okay, I am in everything. Like everything that I'm seeing is so beautiful. It's part of me. And then I go a step further. Not only is it part of me, but is emanating from me. So I'm the creator of all of it. And so at the same time, if I'm the creator of all of it, I can also be the destroyer of all of it. And I look up at the sun, and I'm like, if I needed to, I could make the sun go black. And in that moment, there was like not a doubt in my mind. If I needed it to, I can make the sun go black. What came to me at that point was, and it's funny because I'm in this like omnipresent state, and then I had another voice come in, completely outside voice. Every now and again, it'll come in and it'll just say little things, little nuggets. It says, but only if you need it to. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So it can't be like, you can't be like, hey, Joe, look at what I'm going to do. And with any kind of magic, it can't be about that. You do have to have what I call the purity of intention. What you have to actually want, what you're trying to manifest. I'll have people that are like, one girl wanted me to help her with a love spell for her ex-boyfriend. He was already seeing another lady. They worked together. I start talking to her. I'm like, okay, so what's with this love spell? What do you really want? She's like, well, I really want him. I really want him back. I'm like, okay, well, why? Like, you want to control, manipulate somebody to feel love, or what? What's going on here? And she's like, well, I want everybody at work that we work with to stop thinking that I'm not a good person to be in a relationship with, because he left me and everybody's now mocking me. Everybody's now thinking differently about me. I'm like, whoa. We're no longer talking about this guy. We're no longer talking about your happiness in a relationship. We're talking about social acceptance. So your purity of desire has to be there. You don't want a love spell. You want maybe a recognition spell. You maybe want a ritual that's going to make other people see you in a different way. Really, what you really want is you want to see yourself in a different way. Let's work on that, because that's what you really want. I've got an awesome motorcycle. I love this motorcycle, and I really, really, really wanted it. I walked all over town, taking pictures of motorcycles I would see everywhere with my phone, kind of getting like an idea. This is exactly the motorcycle I want. And then I focus on it, visualize it, did a whole evocation, saw the exact motorcycle I wanted, and then within a week I had it. Like within a couple of days I had the money for it. I saw the motorcycle. All of a sudden, in the local wanted ads or whatever, there's a The exact motorcycle I'm visualizing all of a sudden up here pops up, and I'm like, oh, cool. They want $3 grand for it. I'm like, I don't have $3 grand to just throw down. All of a sudden, I get a check-in coming in from books that were being sold that I didn't even know I was still selling books through this publisher. All of a sudden, I get a check-in for $3 grand. I'm like, hell yeah! And so everything just like lines up, and I've got that. Now, if I wanted that motorcycle because I wanted my neighbors to see me on a motorcycle because I wanted them to think that I'm a really cool guy, it changes the whole thing. I don't really want that motorcycle. I want something else. And so when you look at like the purity of desire, you've got to actually want the thing you're manifesting. You got to want that, and that has to be pure. If you can do that, you can really make anything happen. But every ritual you do, you've got to ask yourself before you get into it, what is it you really want? What's the real end result? Money is a good example, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I use some more money. I want to win the lottery. Okay, focusing on the money, not very helpful because money is not real. It's a symbol. So what do you want to buy with that money? If you want to buy a motorcycle, focus on the motorcycle. If you want to, you want a better home, focus on the better home. But you kind of take your desire, like the initial desire, and then trace it back to what you actually do want. Kind of see if you can go a little deeper with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna actually use that and see how much farther I can go with all that, man. That's great. Holy, hey, what those beads again? Can you let me know where you got those potentials?
Absolutely, Amazon.
Amazon. You just went on Amazon and typed in.
No, so Mala, M-A-L-A, and I'm trying to get these. I've talked to Timothy, and we're going to see if we can maybe make these available along with the Abaddon video course and book stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll be able to. It's hard to say. But yeah, just go on Amazon, type in Mala, find the one that's going to be right for you. And I took these, and I didn't like the color of them when I first got them, so I put a little stain on them to make them a little darker. I put this red bead on there because as you're using them, so it has 108 beads plus the red bead there. The red bead does not move. So here, let me quick little demonstration here. So the red bead doesn't move. It's kind of locked into place on the string. And so what you do is you take it, and you don't want to touch it with your index finger, because your index finger is a finger of Jupiter, which means that it's the controlling finger. With meditation, you're not trying to control. You're actually trying to just give up. You're trying to release. The idea of meditation is that you stop doing and you start being. But in order to just be, you have to do. You have to keep your body busy. So you don't touch it with your index finger, just with your thumb and your middle finger. You start at this is called the guru bead, the red bead. Mine's red, but I put that on there. It looks just like the other ones when I got it. So I went to my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, you got a cool bead I can use? Yeah, she's got all kinds of crafty stuff. So she helps me put that on there. So that way I can see it and I can feel it. It's different than the others. It helps me just stay on track with where I'm at in meditation. But yeah, then you just slide them towards you as you do the mantra. Om Kalima, Om Kalima, Om Kalima. And you can do this. The specific, if you can do like mantra in different ways where you can breathe in and really let it go and intone the sound Om Kalima, and draw it out as long as you want. But when you're doing a meditation like this, it's called japa, which is translates as mutterings, and so you're kind of just doing it on your breath. And so you can do that easily, like pretty much silently, while you're standing in line at the coffee shop, sitting there on the bus, whatever it is you're doing. You can just, I'll do this while I'm driving. I'll throw some music on, hold on the wheel with one hand, and then just flip through them. And you just go through until you hit all the way back to the guru bead. Once you arrive, you've done 108 repetitions. And if you want to keep going, then you just flip it around in your hand, boom, and just start again. But you're always just pulling them towards you. There's all kinds of cool symbolism with these. It's like a silly, cheap tool that keeps you on track. It's like a candle. You light a candle, you gaze into the flame, and you repeat an incantation. The magic's not in the candle, it's not in the incantation. It's these are like a hypnotist watch. It's something for you to pay attention to in order to get deep inside yourself. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thank you again. Seriously, this has been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to be able to use these principles, and I'll definitely schedule another thing. I want to become the best, another level tier up, man. I'll level up, and then I'll definitely link back up with you.
Yeah, no, dude, you hit me back up and we'll jump back on. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. If you have any final things to anyone that's going to watch this to say, it comes from your heart, obviously.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what. You know, when we've talked about a lot of different topics here, and some of them are pretty out there, for sure. Some of them are way out there.
Oh yeah.
And some of them are pretty grounded. But a lot of really stretch your imagination. Like stretch your imagination. See if you can imagine something that would have been impossible for you to imagine before. And so you know, you start that out, like I said, imagination exercises. See if you can recreate your pipe in your hands, recreate that in your mind. And then from there, see if you can twist your imagination to the point that you're imagining some nutty things. You look in grimoires, some of the descriptions of some of these spirits are pretty out there. See if you can just, you know, you mentioned a great point, which is preparatory immersion. A lot of people just want to go summon the spirit. See if you can visualize what that spirit might look like way before the evocation. If you can get an internal vision of what that spirit might look like, you're going to have no problem summoning it. And so you stretch your imagination as far as you can. Use it. You know, people in our society like to think that your imagination is like a silly thing. It's a childish thing. You shouldn't pay it any attention. Your imagination is the strongest thing you got. You know, we built this house. Well, we had a contractor build this house, but before we could do that, we had to imagine what kind of house we wanted. You know, I've got a pathway that leads out to my circle of branches out there. I had to sit there and imagine, okay, what part of this property would be best for my circle? And then I had to stand in those spots and imagine, before it happened, imagine what it would be like. Everything that we create in this world, we have to imagine first. So your imagination is the first step of any kind of creation. So yeah, use your imagination and stretch it as far as you can.
Like and subscribe. Ding!